Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 13th, 2022 Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board has just come out of a paperwork review. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First is a review and approval of consent items. We have an account payroll manifest of June 7th, 2022 in the sum of $871,021.42 and June 14th, 2022 in the sum of $214,436.17. June 9th, 2022 in the sum of $56,725.15 and June 16th, 2022 in the sum of $62,232.35. We have the tax collector, town clerk, treasurer reconciliations. We have a property tax abatement for map 22, lot 100 in the sum of $22. We have a $25,000 bond payment for the fire impact fees. We have uncollectible accounts receivables in the school payment schedule. Are there any items members would like to remove from consent?
Question, what's the bond payment?
That's moving. When we put the budget together, we planned on.
Okay, all right. Never mind. All right. Thank you.
Questions? We have a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
Second.
second by Mr. Larry. All in favor, Mr. Larry?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Is there any other business members would like to add this evening? Hearing none, public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 p.m. The first item of business are the May 23rd, 2022 meeting minutes. Does everybody have a chance to review?
Move we accept the minutes as written.
We have a motion by Mr. LaSalle's.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Larry. All those in favor, Mr. Larry?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Abstain.
I also abstain. Motion carries 3-0-2. Next, we have the June 3rd, 2022 meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Larry,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Lynch. All in favor? Mr. Larry?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's? Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we have the part-time clerk position. Mr. Brown.
Okay, thank you. This evening we have Laura Mills here, our deputy town clerk tax collector, and she's here to talk to you about the recruitment process. As you know, we had a part-time position that was approved in March. They've gone through the advertisement, interview process, and both her and Terry would like to have a couple questions to the board. One, they wanted to understand the final hiring process, if this board is going to authorize Terry and the assistant to finalize the interview process and you know, the hiring, or if, like the way we just did the deputy, if that process is going to then go to the next level with HR and the town manager, the town administrator. So that's the first issue. The second one, due to the fact that the town clerk is out on leave and the workload that they're facing at the month-end property tax due, we got the upcoming primary elections and car registrations. The workload's pretty heavy at this point in time. And they have a request if they could start the position sooner than the July 1st date that was stated in the warrant article. I had checked with legal counsel. Legal counsel highly recommended that we don't do that, but legally the Board of Selectmen have the authority to, you know, hire employees anytime throughout the year without a warrant article. But in this case, if you were to do that, you would need to make sure you use funding from another source, not the warrant article funding. The warrant article funding specifically created the position July 1st. I think that's my introduction, Laura, if you want to. But you don't. So again, the first issue is, you know, how does the board want to complete the hiring process? They've gone through quite a thorough, I know they've gone through what the interview process. You've had 2 or 3 interviews, and
And the second interview, I did the first round interview just myself. I've had a good solid 3 years of interviewing and hiring, specifically for the position of doing motor vehicle registrations, property tax collection. And so I did the first round of interviews myself. We only had a couple of people that applied. And then for the second round of interviews, I had Terry sit in on it. And the one applicant that stands out the most, we feel that is a good fit for the office, for the town. And I'd say my interviewing process, I'm pretty strategic, and I go into good detail with the applicants just so that I can get a good understanding of their personalities, their experience, their knowledge, and to see if they would be a good fit. Their first interview was probably around an hour and a half, almost 2 hours long, and the second interview was probably a good solid hour. I felt that it was a good interview process and felt really good about our final applicant to hire. And with the workload, with just Pat and I, and we do have some help from other departments that help alleviate the customers in line. Dawn has been taking payments, just checking payments for property taxes. That's all that she can do. Then there's someone that still has to enter them in the background in the office. And these payments are just gonna get, more and more and more so. And so we were hoping to squeeze in our just at least 1 week early, just to help alleviate a little bit. And with the starting pay of this part-timer, very low, it's $15.74 an hour, where other people that are working with us right now are, they're getting paid higher than that. And so I thought it would be more cost effective if we hired our
Excuse me, Laura,
Mm-hmm.
for the benefit of the people who are listening.
Sorry. Yeah. But that's pretty much my case. Just this is it's bad timing. It's the end of June, end of the fiscal year for the state, with inventory for motor vehicle. I have to, stay late on the last day of the month. We got property taxes due on the 1st. It's just a very busy time, and it's unfortunate to be short-staffed.
So how many hours are we looking at? Would it be 1 week, 2 weeks? Because I've heard 2 different durations that.
Right. Well, I mean, at this point, I would love to have gotten our part-timer in by, mid-month this month, but obviously that's not going to happen at this point because of they still need to formally, on paper, accept the position, and then background checks and whatever else. And so at this point, it would be probably 1 week before the start date of July 1st. And they're only going to be working 20 hours a week.
Is there a 1 week lag before you get paid? You have to work the 1 week, right? And then, do we have a
Yeah.
problem?
it would work that way, yes.
So we don't
But we
upset the
still
warrant
have the
article.
1 week issue at the end.
It's really the warrant article that I was concerned about.
Just them starting physically.
We asked the taxpayers if they would approve a part-time position, raise money, and we said we'd start that position July 1st.
So it's just them being in the building. They'd really be paid in July, but
So the higher
So
date,
what we'd have to do is find $300.
I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about, are you comfortable starting the position prior to the start date?
Couple of thoughts. Is this person who's coming in experienced? Would they be able to help you significantly without training?
With the help, the site, because obviously they don't have experience in particularly what we do, but they are very quick to learn
Okay.
softwares. They have background in software technology.
Okay,
And what I would have this person do would be a great help. And I believe that this person could learn it
Contribute.
within a day and then be able to take a load
Okay.
off of our shoulders.
my thought with respect to an earlier point is to have Troy involved in the process, at least at the interviews standpoint. I think that worked very well for you. And I personally would like that. I don't know whether that 20 hours, 20 man hours of help is significant enough to take. I see some inherent risk here in hiring before July 1st. And I don't know whether that 20 man hours is worth that risk. But that's just my thought. Maybe it is, you know. I know we're basically at 50% capacity right now, and it's really bad timing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know if, again, it was more, like you said, it's maintaining that credibility with the voters, over maybe getting 20, 40 hours of manpower at the end of the month. And there's got to be training going on at the same time. So looking at that, and two, I didn't know if we could consider increasing, Pat's hours, get her up to 40 hours, or even allow her some overtime to get through the workload over the next 2.5 weeks.
That's another alternative. That
The way I looked at that, that's a lot of money. Her pay overtime compared to 15, it's a lot of money.
would we have to pay?
But I mean, I
time and
guess
Well, if you worked over the 4, you pay time and a half. But
right.
it's that question about, we went in March, we asked the question, and I guess I was more concerned about that. We're only talking about $300 here, but it's more about maintaining that trust with the voters. And I was concerned about that. That's why.
That's my concern.
I brought this to you.
I would normally say wait till July 1st, but I do think under the circumstances where they're already shorthanded without having Terry there, it might be something to consider.
Different.
And it's a real busy time of year for them over there. I was there last week and they're busting their humps over there.
And monetarily, we have to be good stewards of the money, and paying overtime versus paying
A straight time.
that wage, puts us as better stewards
I
of the
think it's
money.
less money.
I don't think you'd pay her till after July. Or him, I don't know who it is. But they'd be in the building in June. That's right, because it's a week.
But the way it's funded is from July 1st.
Yes.
So you're gonna have
Right.
somewhere in the process, you're gonna have a 1 week issue.
Yep.
From a monetary standpoint of the funding.
From a monetary standpoint, the way I see it, if you start them at the third week of June, the pay pattern would be extremely more.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's just 1 week. It's going to be like a training session. Okay, I think the town clerk should have the say on this, and then the fact that that Terry medical concerns came up in a bit because of her because such situations. She would love to be here, I'm sure, but it won't happen.
Are you looking at the 20th or the 27th to start? Today's the
The
13th.
20th.
Next Monday is the 20th and then the 27th. You're looking at the 27th?
Not the 27th of June. Yeah, I mean, it could be the 27th of June. Or
That's
full, the full,
Wrong year.
27th, okay, is the last week of June.
I was hoping
That gives you 4 days.
the 24th. I was hoping the 23rd or the
Do you
24th.
hope on a Friday?
Oh, the
Yeah,
Friday
like
or
the Thursday or
24th?
Friday before.
So it's 5 days.
Bring them in on Friday for that. As for,
And it's about $300.
Yeah, quick math.
Got people bringing in taxes. You got the year-end stuff.
the year and stuff, the medical side of this is what dictates the problem now. That wasn't part of the July 1st.
Have we been busy?
In the window.
Oh,
Yes.
they were when I was there last week. I know that.
They were busy.
Yes.
They were this morning when I was in.
I don't see a problem, me, if we stick to July 1st. And I know the department's run by Terry and her now.
Mhm.
Having HR and the town administrator want to talk to them, but not to make the final decision, to make the decision together.
Yeah, I think HR should always be in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
HR, if
I
they
would
come
agree
in.
with that.
Any other thoughts?
I don't see a problem in 1 week prior to get his fingers wet and with the software, and it'll be better for the end of the year to get going through it.
But I would like Troy and Karen to be involved.
With
At least to
respect,
just sit down with them.
with respect, Terry is an elected official who has appointed me as her deputy
Yes.
for us to run our town clerk tax collector
And
department.
there's,
And
that's it right
we
there.
have,
she has the last say.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Go
Good town
ahead.
employees, though.
also, I'm just saying, we,
Yeah, you would have the final
We
say, but bring
are-
them into the process because everybody goes
I'm sorry,
through the same process.
with,
Terry's group has the
Hiring.
final say.
Yeah, but you have the final say, but bring them into the process.
because I know this was a special case and for me, and I
Mhm.
was under the impression because my position's a deputy position, so supervisor manager's position, where this is a part-time clerk position, where Terry and I are fully capable of going through the whole process to advertise, hire, interview.
Well, I believe, isn't it, it's a town employee though, right? The employees report back through the town, not to.
So this,
Tax collector.
so this position, whereas the deputy is, is
Appointed
is
position.
appointed position.
So what's your recommendation, Troy?
My recommendation is, if you're going to put me on the spot like that, I would not recommend starting the position before the 1st of July. I would stick with the original question that we asked the taxpayers. Do you start July 1st? It seems like you're probably going to get this person in here the last week of the month. It's going to be very busy. So that, I think that could just add more to the workload. And I would look to ask Pat if she would increase her hours and, just works a longer week instead of the part-time hours.
Which she already has been working more than her 35 hours. She hasn't gone overtime, but she's been working more than the 35 that she's supposed to be working. And I've been working over 40 hours.
But
Sorry.
Pat could move to 40, correct?
Which
She
is
could
weeks.
work more. I could ask her to work more. And I know that she would be more than willing to work more, put more hours into it. But
If we get her 5 a day more for 5 days, we get 25 hours when we were looking for 20.
Mhm.
Granted, the pay is going to be slightly higher.
Much.
Yeah, but then we're not, the trust of the voters here with July 1st, to me, is significant.
I just don't want to see the board. This is all very minor,
Yeah.
but you don't want to be in the position a year from now, 2 years from now, asking for a full-time fire chief or a full-time highway employee and saying, we're going to start the position July 1st. And then someone's going to stand up and say, well, you've told us that before. It just kind of hurts your credibility. And that's my concern here, is that if we're going to have warrant articles, they're going to have date-specific times to start the creation of a new position. We should stick to it, especially if we're only talking about a few man hours prior to the start date. But that's just my recommendation. The Board of Selectmen have the authority, according to the legal counsel, to start this position. And the money's not an issue, that we don't use the warrant articles, to fund the position.
Fair too.
That we hire the part-timer July. Ask Pat if she will increase her hours up to 40 hours temporarily here till the end of the fiscal year. And, yeah, that's my motion.
Do you want to add anything about the interview process?
Um,
No. Leave it there.
we'll leave it like that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. LaSalle's.
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Queenan. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
A reluctant aye.
Mr.
Aye.
LaSalle's, Mr. Lynch,
I'm reluctant aye based off the issue one saying that the administrator and the HI have part of the final say of it. It's an elected position under statute. That department runs it.
Mhm.
Okay, that's how I feel, but I'm reluctant.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Do we want to jump over to Tanager? Just so we can help
We could,
everybody?
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I
people
need
here.
library personnel, libraries here. No.
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 You want to do library, then we'll.
No, I was making sure the library's not here because.
Oh, okay.
I'm here, but I'm gonna stay for this and I'll go over to the library.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Next, we'll do the Tanager Way public safety concerns. Mr. Brown.
Okay, I think we have a room full of folks from the Tanager Way here to talk to you about the safety issues that we've heard about regarding the stray bullets that have struck houses. They found bullets on their lawn. Our police department and the Londonderry Police Department has been involved over the past year and a half or more. It's gotten to the point where the police departments, both Londonderry and Litchfield, have completed their investigation. They have not found any evidence where they can pursue any legal action from a legal standpoint. So it was brought to the Board of Selectmen to take a look at whether there was any regulatory action that the town could take. That resulted in Chairman Weber and myself meeting with Captain Scotty and the investigating police officer, Tim Odon from Londonderry, which is a former Litchfield police officer. We met with both those individuals, went over all the work that they put into this case, which they did a tremendous job. They explained to us everything they found. They have made statements that there is a good likely possibility that these bullets probably coming from the Fish and Game Club. It's most likely it's the new range, the 200 or 400 yard shooting range. But there's no way for them to conclude that 100% and take any legal action. So on a regulatory, they advise see what we could do, if anything. Said, well, why don't we meet with the department and kind of understand what process was followed through the site plan approval. And sure enough, there was a great amount of detail where there was a regional notice that was given by the Londonderry Planning Board. It was issued to our planning board for them to give comment, and they did. They provided written comments to Londonderry. It was also given to the National Regional Planning Commission. So much like when a cell tower is sited and there's a regional impact, Londonderry was very good, and they issued that regional notice, giving legal opportunity for the town to comment. The comments that were issued by the planning board, in summary, were noise, vehicle traffic. Vehicle traffic seemed to be a concern because the access into this facility is through Litchfield. So I think the planning board members had heard from residents that, the increased amount of traffic, and again, noise. There was no, so anyhow, concluding that, fact finding, bringing it back to our legal counsel for review, it was in her opinion that there really isn't much the town of Litchfield can do at this point in time. She did point out that there was specific design requirements and guidelines, and that maybe that the planning board in Londonderry should be following, and that was part of the site plan, and I haven't really followed up on that to see what they have on file regarding that. I have a lot of other documents. But at this point in time, even council saying, even those guidelines, if they are in place, it still resorts back to the town of Londonderry as being the entity that could take any regulatory action. But with that being said, we know that the activity is ongoing. I think there's been some relief. I live in this neighborhood, and I know personally there's been a lot of relief through COVID. Hasn't been much shooting activity going on as we did pre-COVID. And as you can see, the residents are here and very concerned because I know that this activity is going to start up again. It's not at the same level. And I think some of them do and at least express their concern we can do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ankle, you want to come up? Chair, we can grab. All right.
I did email shortly before the meeting what I'm going to read. I have a hard copy if that helps because I would like it entered into minutes if that's
Okay.
possible.
Thank you.
I sent it to the board. I don't know if you had a chance to get it, if that was easier to follow along written, but
Okay, thank you.
thank you for taking the time. My name's Janine Anktel. My husband, Kevin Anktel. We live at 43 Tanager Way. Thank you for taking the time to hear from Litchfield residents about this public safety danger. I don't know how much of my correspondences have been shared with the whole board, so for the sake of board members and those listening, I'd like to give a brief summary of the events that have taken place. There is a life and death public safety hazard for Litchfield residents, and we need our elected officials to protect our citizens. A total of 9 bullets have landed in or near Litchfield homes in a small area. Multiple police investigations have found that they are most likely from the Londonderry Fish and Game Club. The extensive investigation police department concluded that there is an, quote, obviously dangerous situation on Tanager Way, end quote. The Londonderry Fish and Game Club has been operating since 1951, long before the houses on Tanager Way were built. We purchased our homes knowing and accepting that the range was roughly 1 mile away. However, about 7 or 8 years back, they added 2 long rifle ranges, a 200-yard and a 400-yard range that point directly at our circle of 5 houses. I have been told by the Londonderry building inspector that they did not require permits to add these ranges on. We have also been advised that there are no safety inspections conducted of outdoor shooting ranges in New Hampshire. Since that time that those ranges were added, there have been 4 houses struck by bullets on our circle. 2 of those bullets went through windows into homes. In addition, a professional metal detector spent just 2 hours metal detecting 2 of the yards and found 5 additional bullets. These were reported to both police departments as well. Both Litchfield PD and Londonderry PD conducted investigations, including sending bullets to the State Forensics Lab. It was determined the bullets came from AK style, SKS style, or Ruger rifles. All of these, which are banned for hunting in those woods, but are used on the rifle ranges pointed towards our neighborhood. All the bullets that struck homes came from the same direction, the direction of the range. All those style rifles have the power to easily send a bullet the 1.2 miles to our homes. Based on the state police ballistics report, either one of the 2 rounds could have been flown the approximately 1.3 miles from LFGC 200-yard and or 400-yard ranges if errantly fired at or over the berm. The Litchfield police report stated that Sergeant Tessier agreed that the most logical answer to where the round came from would be from the Londonderry Fish and Game Club. Londonderry Assistant Town Solicitor Michael Malaguti also stated in his letter to the gun club's attorney that his interpretation is that the most likely source of these rounds is the gun club. The Detective Sergeant of Londonderry PD, who was in charge of the case, conducted an elevation study and found that our homes sit 40 to 50 feet lower than both the firing point and the berms. The Detective Sergeant stated, based on the known information of the ranges and the mapping information, it certainly appears likely that an errant rifle round from the rifle range could impact the area of homes on Tanager Way. He went on to state on record that he had concerns of the firing point's relative elevation to their backstops and the level of training, experience, and expertise of those running and operating on the ranges. A shooter utilizing a bench rest would only have approximately 6 to 8 feet of backstop protection on the 400-yard range and 6 to 10 feet of backstop protection on the 200-yard range. The estimated feet of protection provided by the berm would be further lowered if the shooter stood and engaged the targets offhand. End quote. Detective Sergeant easily found videos of members firing at the gun club in a manner that was not safe for this level of weapon with such minimal amount of berm protection, in his professional opinion. It is important to note there's no supervision or video surveillance at these ranges. Members using the ranges are not required to be properly trained in safety measures necessary for this caliber of rifle. Londonderry Detective Sergeant said in his report that a rifle shooter would typically make adjustments for engaging targets' threats at various ranges based on their given zero, and they'd make those adjustments for every time they pulled the trigger. A simple miscalculation could result in an inexperienced shooter errantly missing the berm. This is especially a concern when considering what the detective sergeant, who is also a firearms safety trainer and trained long-range shooter, refers to as the relatively minimal backstop. When conducting his elevation study, he also noted that the power lines, which a gun club board member claimed has had illegal shooting activity, is at a relative elevation of 270 feet, but quickly rises to a range of 330 to 340 feet in the direction of Tanager Way. This upward elevation change makes any shooting in the area of the power lines very unlikely to reach our neighborhood. Neither police department is pursuing any criminal case because it is not believed that the people shooting the guns have intent to harm. I believe members pulling the trigger have no idea that their bullet entered into a family's dining room, for example. Since no one has been hit yet, there is no crime suspected. Involved in the case agree on is that we have a dangerous public safety issue in Litchfield, most likely stemming from the Londonderry Fish and Game Club. We would like the town of Litchfield to pursue any means possible to keep its residents, which include families residing on Tanager Way, our visiting guests, kids playing in the yard, walkers enjoying our quiet neighborhood, all safe from bullet strikes. A pattern has been established, can no longer be blamed on coincidence. We would like a third-party safety audit of the rifle ranges pointed at Tanager Way and all safety improvement suggestions implemented. It should be the responsibility, moral and legal, of the club management to assure that no bullets are leaving their property. The Londonderry Police Report suggests utilizing a range safety officer to supervise shooter activity and range operations, as well as increasing the height of the backstop with respect to the height of the firing point. These suggestions have been made to club management. In addition, private legal counsel has requested safety improvement from the club management. To my knowledge, no safety changes have been made. Meanwhile, in our neighborhood, we're holding our collective breaths, waiting to see where the next bullet lands. The Litchfield Police Report stated that the Select Board would need to refer the matter to the County Attorney General's office, who could then refer it to the Attorney General's office and request state support. I have been in touch with the State Attorney General's office, but it appears no request has occurred. Please do your duty to protect Litchfield residents before it's too late.
Thank you. Did we have a request to go to the attorney?
Well, unless I've missed it, was this in the police report?
The Litchfield
It's the
Police
first time I'm
Report
hearing of
outlined
this.
a procedure for, for the town to go to the County Attorney General's office, who could then up it to the state level.
It's the first time, hearing of that, so.
I didn't see that.
But it's definitely an action we can take. I mean, we've gone down every path. I mean, we're as worried as you guys are for it. We want to have you safe. So Troy and I have been trying every means in the board on how we can go and get more help. And if that's another avenue we can go pursue it. And listening to, the investigating officers, it makes sense when they start talking about the firing point, where the berm is, and how stray bullet can go over it. When you go down to the base of the berm, it's about 30 feet tall. So you think you're in good spot. When you go back to where they shoot from, it's actually elevated. So now when you're shooting straight out, you only have a little bit of the berm left.
And they're supposed to be shooting from a rest that's down low,
Correct.
but there's a lot of evidence that it's more often from the back of the pickup or the back of
Or
the bench
standing
rest or
up.
standing up. Yeah.
So if you go to the actual range itself, you can sit, you can lay. Some people stand, and when you stand, you actually have less berm. And a lot of them, when they go to adjust their scope, it's actually backwards and they don't know it. So when they think they're adjusting down, they're actually adjusting up. That's what was,
That's
that's
what we were
pretty
told.
much where that's why they're thinking it's coming from that spot.
And
I mean,
that,
the
that
investigation
mistake can
was-
be made, just like an honest mistake, just not a well-trained, a beginner type.
Another thing I'd like to mention, just again, the record, there's a lot of talk trying to deflect it, saying that these are coming from, people target shooting in the woods or those sorts of things. If that was the case, science would suggest that we would have an equally distributed range of bullets around that area. We're seeing a very small, directly at the end of a firing range that's taking.
Completely sat down that it's definitely
It's just a matter, there's change that needs to be made and there's no mechanism to make that change. And we're trying to push from where we stand and we don't have very much push and we need help. And that's
Definitely.
why we're here.
Yeah.
The
and we'll exhaust
municipality has a
every
bigger
means we
voice
have.
than a couple of
Yeah.
residents. So
we'll just keep pushing.
We've been dealing with this around the edges here for a year or so. And I'd just like to relate something that happened to me when I first moved into town. It was on Brickyard Drive. We knew there was a field in back of the house when we bought the house. And to me, that was a positive thing. I'd already outlined, growing up on a farm, I'd outlined where I was going to have my garden and everything. And everything was fine until in the fall, I go out there and there's somebody parked where I was in my garden waiting for a soccer game to start. So I went out there and said, what's going on? And this fellow and I eventually became real good friends. But the solution that we came up with is I worked with the rec committee to put up a fence that outlined exactly where the property lines were. And then there was no longer a problem. If we know, I assume this berm is in Londonderry.
Correct.
Do we know what it would take to make this berm safe?
That's exactly what we're asking for, is an evaluation by an outside firm, someone with expertise, and for their recommendations to be held to, the club to be held to them. I don't know what needs to be done for my people to be safe. That's,
It might be as simple as putting up a 10-foot fence for 100 feet or something. I don't know. You guys probably know more than I, but I propose that we, now this is in Londonderry, so I suspect that our hands are somewhat tied on this, but we could participate with you folks in forcing the issue, okay? And I think we probably could. I think we need to figure out what it's going to take to solve this issue once and for all and get it done with.
Well, it was reported to us, they think just raising the berm, bringing in more material is the solution. The hard part is we're dealing with a private organization that we really can't tell them what to go do. We can suggest, we can put in letters, but I don't think we have any.
it has been in letters from attorneys from both the town of Londonderry as well as private attorney. And it has been requested by the,
Great.
and it has been shot down.
Okay, shut down.
No pun intended.
So, but
Do you have counsel? Does your group, your neighbor?
Kevin and I
Legal
hired
counsel or
private
just
legal
yourself?
counsel, and where we got is that we were told that if we pursue it, they will continue to, what's the word I'm looking for?
if they have more money than we do.
Yeah, they will continue, what's the word?
They're NRA.
When they lose, but then they
Appeal.
appeal. They will appeal. The words are they will appeal as long as it takes to make us go bankrupt.
I have a question. Knowing where the range is, I've been there. I don't shoot up there, but I had the pleasure of going up there a few
Again,
times.
we really have no problem with the shooters. We don't want to take their
I
guns.
don't think
We
the
don't want
shooter's
to
a problem.
shut
I
down their
think
range.
You just want it to be safe.
It's the range itself. Is Londonderry the planning board approved this? Okay, if they have, we got to find that out.
It's been fully approved.
Yes,
Yes.
and they,
Fully approved.
I
That's where
spoke to
we-
the building inspector and planning members over there, and certainly the gun range. Time they had to build a shelter, a structure.
Oh, yeah.
It was
we had to do that.
approved,
I know.
but I was told by the building inspector that when they added the 200 and 400 yard range, it's just moving dirt around, and anyone can do that on their property, and they didn't need any permits for that. And then since there are no safety inspections of outdoor ranges, no one has approved
That's the
approved how or supervised or
Well, the question-
overseen how these ranges are.
Question that I have is the caliber of the guns being used are not guns that you would hunt with. Okay? These are guns you practice to shoot, you go buy them at a dime store now. But I was a building inspector there in Londonderry at the time that they put some of the smaller stuff in. So I know the old part of the range. This part I don't know. I haven't been there since they got built. I know when they did the other stuff, we got into safety at the time with that board. That's going back 30 years. Okay, that's going back a while. But all I can say to you is that's an important factor. I believe the Londonderry Police Department said it well, and you said it well, Steve. It's a downhill projection for what I'm seeing here. If they stand, it goes up and down. The safety on the site is first thing in the gun range. In a military range or in a private range, it's always safety. We're dealing with a group of people that, they carry around with guns, okay? But I think we communicate more with town of Londonderry and their safety guys out there who can help the education, the safety. That was probably wasn't the approval. I think we got to go that step.
we've gone down all the process. We went to the planning board is the way we thought we'd be able to have something. If they didn't
To
give
go
us
to the meeting?
notice, if there was something, we'd have an arm to get in there. So that was the path we tried to go.
Was there a
So it
meeting
sounds to
held?
me right now, the only path we really have, Troy, is if the report does say to go to the attorney, do that, we also can connect in with your legal counsel to find and try to work as a collective whole on what we can do for the neighbors.
Yeah, this did go through. I don't know the information you were provided, but I have a notice of decision by Planning and Economic Development Department. And this is dated November the 6th, 2013. And it's regarding the improvements associated with the 200-yard and 400-yard shooting range. So when they constructed the 200-yard and the 400-yard shooting range, they actually went through the planning board process, and the planning board was notified as a regional impact. So, that was we were kind of concerned that maybe there was no regional impact notice given. And if that was the fact, then we have a right to be able to say, this has to go all the way from start again, and everyone has to be involved.
So Litchfield had a chance
they did
to
do that.
have
And
their
Litchfield
input at
did
the
comment.
time, but
Litchfield, had a lot of comments about noise, traffic, and some of the issues, but there was no
you didn't
you
know
know,
it was
there
an
was
issue
no
before it was an
thinking
issue.
about because the shooting range had been there for years. Nobody's talking about stray bullets. But they knew noise was an issue, hours of operation, and traffic was an issue. They've been hearing that stuff for many years, I have a feeling. So they did comment on that. I think the best thing to do here is the first step is to try to reach out and see if we can get a couple selectmen together, maybe get someone from our police department, maybe get someone from Londonderry, see if we can get us all in the room together and have an informal discussion with members of the Fish and Game Club before you do anything. Just try to sit down and talk, because in my opinion, like others that have shared here, I think we're talking about the need to increase the height of the berm. And if we could all work together as a group, and whether we argue or not, it's needed or not, but if I believe it would be a good step and everyone handshake deal to kind of see what would happen
I
before
agree
we
with-
start going to AG's office and start flexing our muscles here and there. Because in all fairness for the Fish and Game Club, they've gone through the process. They notified the town of Londonderry and they said, we want to build a 200-yard and a 400-yard facility. And here's our application. And they did what they were supposed to do. So in all fairness, they did what they were supposed to do. So I don't know. I think
Now there is a
that's,
safety concern, so
Yeah.
we're hoping they're going to go do the right thing.
Yeah, so
by having an open
that's why I'm saying,
conversation.
I think,
I agree.
I
It's
don't know if
the-
there's been a sit down round table. I don't think there has
I
been.
don't think there has been. I think it probably should happen, and I really don't see anything productive coming out just from my experience in dealing with the members so far. They've been
Sometimes they,
extremely stonewallish, but
I'm not comfortable saying that all it needs is a bigger berm because I'm not the expert.
I'm
And there
not
have
either.
been suggestions from experts that include more of that. So that's why I think we need experts to tell us what has to happen, not the gun club to tell us what has to happen, and not for us to try to decide.
I don't know who that organization is exactly. But I know there has to be, whether it's military or police or there's someone out there who has laws about the way regulations at gun ranges should be made and how they're safe. And that person isn't me. I don't want to be responsible for keeping
Well, that came
people
up,
safe. I'm trying to do what I can, but I'm not the one to make that decision.
But we need a definitive, we need somebody who's qualified
Correct.
to make some sort of definitive study on what needs to be done. And I think that's a better approach, and get it done. That's a better approach than follow the legal angle, because as
Well,
we know.
the thing is, without the legal angle, there's no way to inflict change upon them.
And getting a third party in there to a private club is going to be hard unless a member brings them in to shoot with them and they just observe all the different things and what they could give a recommendation back. I think that's the tough part, 'cause we're dealing with a
Yeah.
private.
I think it's going to take
organization.
legal action to get a third party to be able to do a good study.
And I agree. You know, so that's kind of the part there, unless we can get them in a room and just have a discussion, you know, no attorneys or anything. This is what we're seeing. You know, here's what the report was. This is that. You may contradict, but can we just have a discussion about it to start it?
And more than
Because I mean, I don't think
willing to-
anyone wants to hurt anybody. I really don't.
I
I really
agree.
don't think anyone does.
I agree, but they might.
Are there
They almost have a couple of
I
times
think
without
they-
knowing it.
Are there Litchfield? My husband's one, but are there other members in this town that are part of that?
That gun club?
Yeah.
Tons of
Well, they
them.
can speak up, right?
There might be
They-
some in
they
this
would be
room.
the
I think there
invite
probably
then
are.
for us to go.
Yeah, okay, yeah, there you go.
I've been to
I
the
am-
400-yard range, and there's my first time shooting a gun. I went with a friend, and he gave me an AK and some rifles, and just said, "Yeah, just aim for that down there."
Yep.
Like, there's no supervision. There's nobody that checked my credentials.
No, but
It's
But I
a
meant for them to-
self-policing
Yeah.
safety range.
But I meant for
Everyone-
them to set up the meeting.
Violating club rules by doing what you just explained that you're doing.
Correct.
You're not supposed to. You're
I
supposed to
didn't know the
properly
rules.
cite in your
Mhm.
your member buddy is supposed to be aware of the rules, and if club leadership was made aware that he's breaking rules, it's a problem.
Correct.
You're supposed to properly cite your weapon in on the smaller ranges before you move up to that range. There's pretty strict rules in place for that, and if people are breaking that, that's not okay. Everybody wants to be safe and totally understand your concerns. It's not okay that you be being hit by bullets or anything. I think a good idea is to get club leadership down to a table without legal representation and explain your situation here. Because as a member myself, I would totally be for raising berms or implementing some other sort of safety procedure. Nobody wants to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And you know, all club members, I'm sure, are amenable to making changes.
Yeah, so just to make it easy, what I'll do is I'll open up public
Club
input at
members probably are, but
7:20
there's
PM.
nothing.
Oh, I was just
So we
on the
can-
other.
No, so we can have everybody just enter the name so we can get
Okay.
in the record and so
Should
forth.
I-
And you can sit there, people can come over, we have other microphones, so whatever.
Could I ask just a general question? As far as the berm, what's the length of the berm? Not the height, but the length.
Width?
The width,
Width,
it's
all
big.
It's
It's
pretty
big.
yeah.
Anybody know?
It's the width of the run, the full run, plus a little bit extra.
Probably
side
50
berms
feet.
too. Yeah,
50
that'd be
feet?
my
Yeah,
guess,
but there's berms that come up the sides as well.
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the ones that are
At the end.
toward Tanager.
Right, 50 feet's a good guess.
50 feet?
Yeah.
In width, yeah.
The full width of the.
So look, 50 feet wide by, let's say, 10 feet?
No, it's 30-ish. You get down there to the base of it, it's high.
No, but I'm saying extend it. If you went,
If you want to bring it up.
yes, 50 feet by 10 more feet.
Again, I don't know.
No, I understand, but I'm just trying to get a picture in my mind.
Yeah, maybe another 10 feet might be good.
I'm not as a member representative of the
No.
club, but I would for sure be open for helping the club do, facilitate that requirement.
So now I open up public input at 7:20. So if any members of the public would like to speak, just your name, address, so we can get into the record, and you're free to give comment.
I'd like to speak. Brian Dodge, 10 Heron Drive.
Brian, could you come up, please, so we just hear the microphone? Thank you. So those listening can hear you.
So Brian Dodge, 10 Heron Drive. I live right around the corner from Janine and Kevin. So I'm not directly affected, but I do walk through with my kids and drive through. And it's more about principle of the matter. I love hearing all the work you guys did and that you acknowledge that it is likely coming from there. That's huge, because I thought we were fighting more of, oh, it could just be some guys in the woods. This is 1.3 miles away, direct line of the new range. What goes up comes down. No one's arguing that's going through the woods, but rather up and over. And as you guys mentioned, which I'm glad to hear too, that shooting position, based on a video I saw, where they're at the targets and they're backing up, you can see the elevation change, and it's big, and it's freaking far. So when you're shooting, anyone who shot knows that the muzzle, slight tip of that muzzle up, and you're going, it's that distance, you're going up over not only the berm, but the tree line. So obviously it's probably an inexperienced person that doesn't know truly what they're doing, no intent to do anything wrong. No one's saying that. I don't think there's intent, but it's just that slight muzzle tip, and you're clearing not only the berm, but the tree line. So I don't think even raising the berm 30 more feet would do it, because you're clearing the tree line. I think you need to lower that elevation, that shooting position, take all that dirt that you just dug out of there, put it on the berm, and you got both the best of both worlds. You got the lower shooting position, you got the raised elevation.
That was the conversation we had.
I mean,
And again, I've never been there. I am a gun supporter, gun owner, veteran. I'm not looking to take anyone's rights away, not looking to shut down the range. It was there before we moved in. I grew up in Litchfield. I used to shoot in the sandpits. I love shooting. I just want them safe. I want people walking through safe. And I think the common sense thing is literally get an excavator in a couple of days, dig that shooting position out, move it down, call it good. Maybe throw up a couple signs that say what goes up must come down, and watch your muzzle. That's it. So I love hearing what you guys are doing. I love that you guys acknowledge the fact that it is very likely. And I love to hear that the shooting position elevation, because that's all, in my opinion, fact. Some would argue that, but it's not coming from random people. There's 4 houses within a couple hundred feet of each other, directly in line. It's clear as day what's happening. But I appreciate it.
Thank you for your input, and thank you for your service. Anyone else? Sure. Welcome.
Thanks. Dan Harrison, 95 Pinecrest. So appreciate the discussions tonight. This is obviously a safety issue that cannot remain, and no is not an option. It just isn't. We've done everything is not an acceptable answer for anyone, for you, for the police, for the district attorneys. It's not acceptable, because sooner or later we're going to be talking about a memorial service. Nobody wants that. So I would like to ask this board tonight to make a motion, all support it, please, to officially contact the district attorney's office as an official act of the town of Litchfield, and officially contact Londonderry as an official act of the town of Litchfield, not as an informal discussion. Please make a motion and make it an official act of the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's pretty much been said.
You're too tall to shoot. Dan.
I know. Jeremy Berg, 41 Tanager Way. I am one of the houses that bullet impacted, came directly through my front window into my dining room. And I have 2 young kids, and so obviously it's a concern of mine. And I think a lot of good things have been said here, a lot of good suggestions. Including the sign, which was one I was going to say, that there should be some kind of signage there. Maybe they posted it since I've been there, but just that there is, maybe saying there are homes at the end, and obviously, make sure to keep the muzzle down, because it's a danger. Something along those lines is the first and lowest cost security or safety concern that they could do. somebody there doing trainings, maybe they can offer also an option. I just wanted to say, appreciate the work that you guys are doing because we really do need to get this fixed. So that's it.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing? Jim Rice, 45 Tanager Way.
Good evening.
Good evening to you folks. Appreciate all the work. Quick question. I know some of this in talking with my neighbors and everything like that. One of the questions that I had is what the Londonderry Fish and Game stance is, the management stance about this. Like just having a conversation. Gentleman here is talking about, common sense stuff at safety. No one wants to get hurt. I wanted to ask the floor of what management at Londonderry Fish and Game is saying back to, hey, we're finding 4 bullets lodged in houses. We're finding bullets laying down in the grass. The one that I was talking to my wife about is like, the hugest thing is all the bullets that haven't made it to the house, but have cleared the berm. Right. So does anyone know, or put it to the floor, does anyone know what management of the Londonderry Fish and Game Board? To me, it's a moral obligation. I would think that they would say, like, we want to resolve this thing versus having to go through all the hoops of attorney case would be all the processes to get this thing buttoned up much sooner. It's not about intent. It's just about what a result's going to be. And it's a matter of time. So
this board hasn't talked to NRPC reports through Londonderry and Litchfield PD. And did they report what the stance was when you and I sat with them?
I believe I've not spoke with them, the management of Fish and Game. I have seen correspondence, either through social media or exchange through the investigation.
We talked about that before.
And I believe your management of the Fish and Game Club, your position is going to be that there is no evidence that these bullets are coming from our facility. And there is other activities, known activities that are going on in Musquash and the power lines and this and that. I don't think you're ever going to find that management will ever admit, because there is no evidence that clearly states that those bullets are coming from their facility. And that's why I suggest understanding what legal working with attorneys, understanding insurance companies, what they're going to advise you, the positions to take, that you have at the first step an informal meeting with all these parties and talk about, are there ways that we can talk about making some improvements there, as just a good faith effort of not admitting that any of these bullets are coming from our facility, but trying to do whatever we can to create that, a better feeling for our neighbors that it's a safer. We're doing some improvements to improve safety. That's my take on it, from what I've seen in just some email exchanges and stuff. Their position is that there's no evidence that it's coming from us. We've gone through our permitting process. There's a lot of target shooting and hunting going on in this neighborhood, and there always has been.
absolutely. Is there an ability to have a group, whatever that group may be, from Litchfield to
100%.
extend a hand out and say, hey, from a due diligence perspective, let's sit down, let's talk, let's hash this out. I'm just common sensing it, and I would think that they're going to be a lot more apt to have an open discussion right now, where it is informal versus ratcheting things up. And again, it might be, to your point, ratcheting it up is the only way to kind of press forward.
It might be.
But that said, again, to me, I would think as a moral obligation, no one can say it's not a coincidence. It's just common sense. And again, I can't speak from the standpoint of the Fish and Game Club. I just think as a good person, you would say, like, geez Louise, that's, there's the tunnel. That's where the shooting's going. And this is where the bullets are landing.
We will definitely ask to have a conversation. I mean, that's something that's easy enough to do. Hopefully they'll say yes and sit with us. But
To me, those two things are not mutually exclusive. Don't have to rest. It's been
Science.
well, it's been proposed that these bullets are coming from somewhere other than the shooting range. Well, so what? they're coming from that direction. So wherever they're coming from, we've got a certain amount of bullets that are ending up in your house or your backyard, whatever. So we need to protect that wherever they're coming from. Now, I think it behooves us to have this internal or this informal discussion because we haven't done that. I think it makes common sense to do that. But then we also, as a board, representing the people of Litchfield, we also have to have at least explore what we need to do to take it to the next step. And we can do both at the same time, to me.
Yeah.
And
I just wouldn't take that second step.
Until you have the
Because
discussion.
You'll never have the informal
Correct.
conversation.
because they'll dig in their heels.
Oh, they just won't meet with you.
Okay.
They'll
Absolutely.
shut the door.
Now,
Well-
Rich, is there anybody from the state standpoint that you could talk to and just get a little more
I don't-
knowledge behind it?
I don't know. I've been racking my brain here, and I will pursue that. I just don't know. I mean, in a lot of cases, the state has a hands-off approach with home rule and planning board and so forth, where, and I just don't know, but I can work on that.
Isn't Kevin Smith on the planning board still, even though he's running for Congress, for planning board of Londonderry, but he's also running for Congress or Senate?
Is he resigned?
might be,
He was the town,
Yeah,
he was the
took a
town
leave because-
administrator.
Took a leave.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah,
good dude.
he was the town administrator. He is.
Yeah, he was the town manager,
Stepped down.
right?
Well, he's no longer the.
He's no longer, he stepped down because he's running for,
Yep.
he's running for something else.
So I have spoken to several state and federal senators, and I have spoken to representatives of the governor's office and the attorney general's office. And everyone thoroughly agrees that something needs to be done, and everyone is not quite sure whose jurisdiction it is. It's complicated by the fact that we are in not only a different town, but a different county.
That's right.
In the range, it's Rockingham County versus Hillsborough County. I don't mean versus as like that, but that's Londonderry Legal has told me that the action needs to come from Litchfield because that's where the victims are. And since, like you said, they're not blatantly breaking any rules in terms of zoning rules or anything like that. As far as having an informal conversation, those have taken place on a smaller scale. Litchfield PD has had an informal conversation with management. Londonderry PD detective has had an informal conversation. Our lawyer and the Ranges lawyers have had several conversations, and the stance is always, you can't prove it, and we can make you go bankrupt. And as well as they also say we are doing all the safety regulations that we're required to, and we will continue to do all those safety regulations. They feel that they are being perfectly safe because there is a sign that posts rules, even though there's no supervision or oversight to make sure rules are being followed. My concern about an informal conversation is that the time it takes. My house was hit on September 21st. Every day, bullets are shot at us. Every day, bullets are shot at our kids, our animals, our friends walking. And an informal conversation, management could certainly drag that date out as long as they'd want to, and we still end up at the same place. So have an informal conversation if you feel that might produce something, or if it might create good relationships. But I think that the legal, like you're saying, the legal avenue needs to happen at the same time too, in terms of expediting things, because it's been many months. It's been several years actually since we started getting hit, and so we are nervous all the time.
Which I could fully understand.
So every day is another risk we're taking. So I also would like to see a motion today to, as a town, make an official request of the county attorney general, the county general's office.
Okay, thank you. I think we can do that. The other part about the conversation so far, it's been legal and law. So I can kind of see why the gun rage took the stance they did. Maybe if we come in as town of Litchfield, town of Londonderry, and just want to have a conversation with them, we might get a different result. because
that legal and law are involved in this case.
I
Their
know.
brickles are already up about this, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm a little pessimistic about a productive
Mhm.
outcome, but
yeah. So I was just thinking,
Appreciate
as you hear that, it's like, so maybe, but I do agree that we need to reach out to the Attorney General in this process, see what type of assistance we can get. Because we got to try to do everything we possibly can for the
What
safety.
again was the recommendation about the AG's, contacting the AG's office? What was that?
that the town, in conjunction with the chief of police, would need to bring a request to the county attorney general's office, which could then be elevated to the state attorney general's office and get state involvement.
Got both towns?
Those
No,
are recommendations.
our
there's a
town.
Recommendation within the report.
from the law officers involved. So again, I guess we'd be bringing a concern to the AG's office with a bunch of assumptions, no evidence, and trying to initiate a legal process. That can actually be dragged out. That can take time. I just really feel that the best way to start this is to have that face problem with a neighbor before you it's maybe uncomfortable, but sit down, have face-to-face conversation and talk about your concerns and seeing what we can all do working together to try to address our concerns.
I haven't seen that yet.
That has the chance of getting some results fairly quickly. You will know very quickly if
One
you're
moment,
not going to
please.
get results, and you know that you're going to need to go to the next level. That's my opinion.
Jennifer Ford, 46 Tanager Way. I am one of the houses that the bullets fly over. I have 3 small children, and just recently my 9-year-old did come home very concerned about playing up at Forest House, where bullets had been, and those bullets had hit their house. And that if they had been playing up there, what would happen? And that's a 9-year-old. My concern is that whatever you decide to have a motion for today, if something happens between now and then, where do we all sit and how do we feel? Because the math doesn't lie. We've seen 9 bullets. Eventually, one's going to hit somebody or somebody's pet, some person or a child. So whatever you guys decide, obviously it's up to you, but understand we're talking about real people and we have to figure out how to make a solution that's quick. If you think, Troy, talking to that board is where it's at, then what do they get, a week? Like there has to be a deadline, because then if they keep pushing it off, like Janine said, then we're sitting here. I get the AG is going to take a while too. I mean, can you do them simultaneously? And you're saying to the gun range, hey, we're going to put this in motion. We'd like to speak to you first, and we'd like to do it within the next 2 weeks. Like rather than it just be open where they push it off and push it off.
I think a deadline before we move to the next step makes sense.
And then I can go home to my 9-year-old and at least explain, yes, those bullets have hit your friends' houses, but this is what we're going to do because the town we live in has decided to protect you. I have to say something. He's 9. We're very honest in our home.
Do we have a list of the board members?
Is that Londonderry Gun Club?
Yeah.
It can be gotten.
It can be gotten, definitely.
If we could get names.
I have a letterhead from the president during the police
It's
investigation.
online.
Yeah, you can get it.
Yeah, I think we need to talk to them.
ASAP.
And at the same time, talk to the county attorney, because I think that's where we need to start. Hillsborough County Attorney.
Both of them.
And, you know, quite frankly, I don't know what we can do, but we need to do something.
Fully agree.
Okay.
Jason Koza, 106 page, wasn't here for this issue, but I think Troy's spot on this. I think just being a good neighbor and reaching out without the legal attachment, because I think that's where people are going to shut down, right? You know, if you're pushing for fault assigned, you're going to lawyer up. I think, you know, like I said, as a member of the range, I've used that particular range a lot. I would not be adverse representative of the club, like I said, but I've heard of this issue, so for sure, as a member, I'm going to try to spread awareness. I'm going to be reaching out to the club president and see if we can make any kind of inroads to get that contact going. But I think what's really hurting the process is the legal attachment. So,
Thank you.
and of course, nobody's, I've got a 3-year-old too. I would be terrified.
The range has been aware of these things since the very first bullet hit these houses 5 years ago. If we're dealing with reasonable men who care about my safety and my family's safety, why has nothing been done? 4 years, 48 months. What's happened?
Well, to me, and I agree with you, and we as a board have tapped around the circle here, and I agree with you, but maybe we need to take a different approach. That's my.
We need to do something.
I agree with you. I agree with you, and I don't blame you for feeling the way you do. I don't blame anybody, but we need to take a different approach. But we need to take some action items here to solve this issue.
I don't believe that. I really hope I'm wrong, but I don't see the range taking any action on their own unless they're forced to. That's where everything I've been through is where I've gone to, I feel today. And I wish that weren't so, and I really hope it is, and maybe an informal thing will help. I don't think it will, because I've just been met with stone-faced resistance and told to prove it and go away. So I know you're all trying to help.
Yeah, and like you say, you've invested 48 months in this. I don't feel necessarily that we have done all we can do. And perhaps it's a face-to-face meeting could make a big difference. And we don't need to assess blame. We just need to make sure that people don't get hurt, and we need to correct the situation.
Okay, well, wish for the best and hope that they're responsible, but prepare for the worst, because that's
Like
what I believe it's going to come to.
Like you said, we've been working for 48 months. Let's try a little different approach, and who knows?
Thank you.
So Shanna Dodge, 10 Heron Drive. I just wanted to point out that the only people who actually have brought up fault or blame is the gun club, and it's in the context of prove it. So none of us have even said that. We've actually honestly said, we honestly believe nobody is doing this on purpose. Of course. I mean, if that were the case, we'd have a different problem on our hands. That's not the problem. This started really reasonably and rationally. I think the police had to be involved because a bullet went through a house, and 4 times. So that wasn't, oh, we're going to get those police involved. A bullet went through a house, right? So this started, as rational as parents can be, going to this place, and nobody talked about fault or blame except for the club saying, give us evidence that we're at fault. So I think, again, it stands to reason that more than an informal talk is going to have to happen. And so I'm going to throw my support behind the 2 requests that have been made for you guys to motion to contact the AG's office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Windage and elevation, right? Windage and elevation.
There's a pretty good video that shows it on their Facebook. I'm sure it'll be removed, but it goes from it and it backs up, and it's dramatic.
It doesn't take very much difference.
Right,
How high up is the shooting platform?
It's high.
I've never shot.
It's like this, but
So how far down? 20 feet, 30
He
feet?
has the numbers.
it's
The police report. I can tell you the numbers if you want the numbers.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the police report, so I don't know.
Because as elevated as the platform is elevation that you're losing off the berm if you're shooting straight through.
that's the whole report has that.
It's a sloping range, correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Mhm.
So when you say platform, it's nothing you set on, okay? It's where you lay. That's the platform, so you're shooting
You
down.
can lay, you can sit, you can stand.
The 200-yard range firing point sits at approximately 260 feet of elevation. Its berm rests at 270 to 274 feet of elevation.
10 feet.
The 400-yard range firing point sits at approximately 260 feet of elevation. Its berm rests at an elevation of 270 to 272 feet. Also of note in terms of elevation are the affected homes who rest at an elevation ranging from 210 to 220 feet. So that's from the Londonderry Police Report.
Thank you. Troy, did you get that copy from the police department?
Yeah.
Can you send it to us, please? Thank you.
It's in the portal there, but yeah.
Well, I was trying to get more detail of it. The general letter.
I'm assuming that's the top of the berm, not, is that the reference was?
Correct.
50 feet?
Target's gonna be even lower.
Well, and then again, we have the problem is that if they're not laying down on the ground.
It's the elevation, yeah.
Firing point.
Changes there.
You get about, relative, you get about 6 feet of protection.
Projection of the.
There should be some type of height provision. They have to put a hole for you to look.
We have, they got a little pit for you to go into.
Foxhole.
Box, yeah.
I want you to know this board will do everything in its power, what we can do to help.
I'd like to offer a motion.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we pursue setting up a meeting,
ASAP.
an informal meeting with all the parties involved, from the Fishing Game Club, residents, police department, to informally. And secondly, I propose that the selectmen authorize myself to contact the county attorney to see what procedures we need to follow, to see what avenues are available to us from that regard.
Should this fail?
Can we,
Should it fail?
Yes.
can we amend having law enforcement in that meeting? Because I think that's going to shut down the conversation.
Plain clothes, if they're in plain clothes.
Yeah, and they don't know who they are. They could be residents, right? But I mean, I think, yeah,
They should be in plain clothes.
correct.
I think less is more.
I do too. I think you have a
Less is
couple
way more.
people from Londonderry, a couple people from Litchfield come together with them and just have an informal
Less
conversation.
is better.
That meeting,
Open.
just that meeting. Just that
As
one.
long as it's productive, that's the important thing.
That's the point.
Why can't the police get involved and talk to
Pictures
us?
of our kids on the posters.
Well, we have the police report.
We have the reports. and
So
everything. I think
that's-
keeping legal and law out is the way.
We
to
can
have
refer to the
conversation.
police
No,
report.
the full board did.
I did.
They were at a board meeting. They presented to us. Scotty presented.
Scotty did,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. The report.
did?
Scotty.
Scotty did.
I remember that conversation, but just here on the Londonderry side where you got
Oh, we
something
didn't,
else.
we
They
saw
sent the reports to
O'Donoghue's
Litchfield.
report.
O'Donnell, I know, I met him here.
I don't have a problem with not having the police.
Yeah, I think it makes for a better conversation.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it'd
Why don't we
be,
do-
I don't know how you do it, but I do agree. Less would be better. So either, 2 or 3 representatives that are here this evening. Somehow you guys talk and send me an email, let me know who those 3 will be. And then we'll have 2 selectmen
That's a lot.
and
That might be a lot too.
Yeah.
Maybe have one resident.
Not too fine.
Because
I'm
if we
just trying
invite,
to
I mean, I think we should agree to that
invite
this evening.
Londonderry
So,
selectmen
Yeah.
to join, I mean, you're talking about a crowd of 5,
Yeah.
6, 7
so,
people.
You don't want 7 jumping on 2, right?
Yeah.
You kind of want to
I
make
just think
it
we
a
should
nice
agree how many
conversation.
citizens representatives and
Pick one and have them join us there.
The only way this approach will work is if cooler heads prevail
Yeah.
here.
Correct.
Have a good conversation.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I think the facts have to be presented in the right manner. So
Mhm.
I'll volunteer.
How often do they have board meetings? Do you know?
Monthly.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
And I wouldn't be adverse to attending a board meeting and just saying,
go to them.
if I get, I know
I'll
Olson,
go too.
I mean, if I can get an
But I can't go.
invitation, I'd be happy to
2
go.
go, yeah, 3.
I can't take the place of the meeting though, right?
No. Oh, it's just a
Okay, gotcha.
discussion. Actually, it's preliminary to getting them to come to the meeting.
Being a private club, you'll need an invitation because only members can show up for the board meetings.
Or we can say the meeting can be somewhere else too.
Correct, but I'm just saying Rich wanted to go to a board meeting, just have an informal conversation.
Okay.
But I think we should do the other one. I can work with you to reach out.
Okay.
If I could say too, with the informal meeting or whatever the case would be, is just doing the check down. I think it would go a heck of a long way if there was someone who was a friend at the club and a friend that is representing here or whatever it may be, that they have an existing rapport so they can cut through the minutia of the defensiveness and all that type of stuff and really say, hey, let's get down to brass tacks. We know why you're here. Because that person can go back to his board and say, guys, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. So I think that's any traction on that informal meeting.
No guilt involved.
Right.
No,
Just solutions.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think it's important that we all admitted this evening that we jumped to some conclusions about what needs to be done out there. But I do think it does, revert back to, is there some professional engineering firm or someone that can actually do an assessment and say, tell us, is it designed properly or not? Does it meet current standards if there are?
Those are the things.
Because, I know the officer from Londonderry, his real concern was that the elevation of the firing point.
That's correct.
It wasn't so much the height of the berm.
Well, he wanted the two to get more in
You know,
line. He
balance-
didn't care
so-
which one went up or which one came down. He just needed.
One of them,
And he
one or
was a
two has
firearm.
to
It's
equalize
really
the
having
height.
that conversation about,
I agree with that.
how do we get to the assessment? How can we do that? But we sit at the table and we talk.
Right.
You willing to do it? You willing to, and how do we do it? Who pays for it? And
Oh, yeah.
you have to have that conversation.
Great.
Do we have the authority to pay for something to be done in Londonderry?
We don't.
No.
That's why the town needs. to be
So, I mean,
involved.
that's the big thing with our legal counsel saying the Board of Selectmen doesn't have a lot of authority in this situation other than, communicating with the town of Londonderry, but Londonderry would need to find, site plan violations or something like that. So we would need to find site plan violations, report those to the town of Londonderry and put pressure on them to investigate. And if they find anything,
I have no problem going over and looking at those.
That
plans.
process.
so
we went
you got to go
through
through
it.
the site. We don't want to, anyhow, I think the best thing would be having this meeting.
I can go
Start.
over the plans.
Okay.
There's public information. Plans are public.
So I have a motion on the.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
One second.
We have a second by Mr. Larry. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Larry?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Matt, do you have a motion?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And we will keep working hard.
I will have
Sure,
to
everybody's
say, you
safe.
and
We
Ian
want to go.
back.
They're going to come back to us.
That's fine. Before
Okay.
everybody leaves, could I just ask one thing? If the club leadership happens to watch this or something, would the affected residents be willing to foot the bill for a private assessment if that came down to it?
The question.
I'm just
Broad
tentatively.
strokes, yes. Like broad strokes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? We're not signing on the dotted line. but
Yeah, if it's not 20,000.
Exactly.
Sure. Obviously, if it's reasonable. Yeah.
But are we really talking dollars and cents to save kids?
I know.
No, that's not what this is about, but.
I don't think that's not a fair question right
It's
now.
not exactly.
That is the discussion, one of the items that we'll have when we get around at this informal meeting.
Yeah, I mean,
The question's there, but it's
We're
not
all
ready
being
for you.
recorded here and I don't think that's a good
You take
discussion.
notes.
We all just want to save lives.
Correct. So do we have any other members that would like to give public input this evening on this topic or
We got
any
a
topic?
library lady.
Why it's open.
I guess I'm gonna go now. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. We'll
Thanks, guys.
keep working hard for you.
Very
Thank you for your time this evening. We appreciate it. Thanks, Janine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't
is
say
she gonna
why
stay
you-
for the library? Are we talking library next?
We were going to.
She just left.
I didn't catch your name.
Maybe she's coming back.
Huh?
Maybe she's coming back.
I don't think so. All right, let's go back to it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
She's left us, right?
I'm Rich LaSalle.
Where's the Londonderry? Where's the line?
All right. Are there any other members who'd like to give public input this evening?
Joe, you're here.
You here for the pistol permits? Is that like?
Oh, okay.
I know that. I signed it
Joe,
today.
come on up.
You're next.
Another one's
I was like, how did you hear about this on the agenda?
I did not want to bring that up.
I'll block that one.
Citizens rep.
Okay, Joe Cabral, Brickyard Drive. About a month and a half ago, we had a discussion with the fire chief's vehicle being marked
It's on the agenda.
of some sort,
Mhm.
whether it's the town
Mhm.
thing or command vehicle, tailgate, hood. It's been here a month and a half. I've been watching you guys.
We've been busy.
It's lights on it and everything, but if you didn't see them lights on in this town, you would think it was from anybody in here with a truck.
That's on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, is it?
Yep.
Oh,
Thanks for showing up, though.
I didn't read anything on the thing tonight. I just came up. Because what it was when the accident today, I went down and there he was, and there's nothing, all the lights were going. I didn't even stop and ask him what the heck was going on. I just
It should be marked.
Stay tuned.
stay tuned.
Yep, you can sit here, watch.
I'll stay.
Okay.
You had an hour.
Thank you. Any other members who'd like to give input this evening? Seeing none, we'll close public input at, call it 8 p.m.
I know.
Well, we want to jump to the firearm license
Yeah,
approval?
Let's do these guys because they're here.
Come on up.
Take that- take
Mr.
that.
Brown.
Anything else? Where is that?
So we have two. We don't receive these that often.
No, pistols are.
But basically, what you have here is a home occupation. So, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Koza, both have applied to our building permit, building department for basically this permit application is started because they need verification to prove to the federal government that they can get a federal license to sell these weapons. I probably got that all wrong. But that triggered the building department's review. We're treating it as a home occupation. And it's gone through the process for either having to go to the planning board or the fact that it's a legal home occupation, it's allowed use, and there's no planning board action. Police department's aware of it. They've signed off on it. The building inspectors sign off on it, and it requires the board of selectmen to sign off on it.
Got a question before you go. You say sales? Sales of firearms in the house.
That's correct.
There's precedent for this. There was a home,
Cudmore, right?
yes,
Yep.
on Nessencake.
Mhm.
That there was a fellow who sold firearms out of his garage.
It's going back a while.
Yeah, I think now, are you Mr.
Koza.
So you've been doing this?
No,
Right
so
now,
I
is this new application?
I'm a new application. I just got my federal firearms license, so I'm licensed there, but I can't complete transfers for pistols per state law until the pistol sale permit's approved. So
You're new in town.
5 years.
Yeah. You're still new.
You inspected my heater. You know where I'm at.
Just from a knowledge standpoint, is it selling them in just the state of New Hampshire, or can you federally sell them anywhere?
Pistols cannot go across state lines.
Okay. So
Rifles you can sell across state lines,
Okay.
but
So pistols stay within the state, rifles.
Mhm.
Okay. I didn't know that.
I know in Belford, when we did them, the planning board wasn't involved in anything, but if you get into retail sales, people coming to it from the house, that gets in a little gray area with the zoning, the way it's written.
So you're all mail order?
I'm sorry?
Mail order?
For the most part, yeah, internet mail over order, but transfers have to be completed on the premises. So
Where do you live?
Page Road.
Oh, Page Road.
106, correct?
Yeah, you know it. I know you do.
I think our ordinance said if you have more than two
Is that up
cars
around from
at
St.
the
Albans?
Yeah,
home
no,
occupancy,
Downfather.
then you.
Oh, no, yeah.
You had like a
Yeah.
2-car minimum,
Yes.
right?
Two space.
Yeah, there's-
Can't remember.
So,
exactly.
the home
I
occupation
remember.
is, there's no sign, you don't employees. This operation,
Just
for
him.
the most part, you're never even going to know that there's a business operating.
Whoa.
This rinky-dink operation he's saying.
Okay. I don't have a problem.
I have no concerns at all.
Ask the planning board flying
Yeah,
colors.
I have no concerns whatsoever. Approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mr. LaSalle, second by Mr. Further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 500.
Thank you, everybody. Good
You're
luck
most
with the other
welcome and good
issues.
luck.
Good luck. Yeah, definitely.
I'll have to check out what you have.
No, come on. Yeah,
When I
your
get a
wife's.
website, I'll forward it.
All right, send it over to me.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
All right, looping back around now. We did that with
where are we at?
identification and marking of town vehicles. Mr. Brown.
This is simple.
So this was, I believe, one of the selectmen had asked if we could put this on the agenda for continued discussion. I think the board's acted on this.
I thought so too. We had like 3 meetings on it. I
times
thought
now.
we took action.
It's been requested by Selectman Leary to be placed back on the agenda. So for discussion this evening.
Yeah, we did discuss this the last time, and I was thinking about it after, and I was kind of not upset, but disturbed that we had the police and the fire lumped together. And I understand completely, and that's why I voted no, because they were together. I understand the safety issue, but I've never heard, and I've tried to look, and I've not seen anything anywhere where somebody's walked up to a fire vehicle and shot the person inside. Okay, I think it's a totally separate entity. I believe the police vehicles need to be unmarked for obvious reasons. The detective and the other 2 vehicles are used for investigative work. But I think the fire department should be marked. I think all the vehicles should be marked over there. Okay. So that's why I asked the action that we took before.
I think you mentioned the word shot. I think I brought that comment up. Just to remind everybody, my best friend growing up's father was a paramedic, and when he would get on calls to go into Boston, he would be trying to save the person who got shot, and then he'd be getting shot at because the people wanted the drugs in.
But
the
that's a
ambulance.
separate issue, by the way.
Yeah, so I wanted to
Yeah.
clear that up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't think I mentioned anybody getting shot because they knew it was.
No. I said I had tried to
Okay.
see where, if any, I knew of any fire personnel that were
Never.
just wanted
shot
to
while
clarify
sitting in a vehicle. And we've had a lot of that with the police, which is really sad.
Separate issue.
Yeah.
And it is separate, and that's why I wanted to bring it back up for reconsideration.
I like the thing to be marked the way it should mark. The town seals, fire department, Litchfield, front and rear,
Yeah.
insides.
I think we've knocked this thing around so many times and we made a decision. I think we should stick with our decision and what we made. I mean, we've bantered in many meetings back and forth about town vehicles, and we voted on it as a board, and we took action that they did not need to be marked. And how many more things are going to keep coming back at us?
Well, I mean, does the highway department take the lettering off of their vehicles?
No, that's not, I mean,
Well, it's a town vehicle, Steve. As much as you and I agree 95% of the time, this is one spot we don't agree on. I mean, where do we do? I agree with the 3 police vehicles, but everything else should be marked, including the building inspector's vehicle, which isn't marked yet either.
Yeah, in my understanding, he's trying to get the stuff.
Okay.
It's delayed for some reason.
Is there somebody special that does it?
There's people that do it all the time. It's just a matter of getting the right guy and doing it. But I don't know what the reason. It's something about the way the seam of the car is.
He's got,
It's the type of car with the seam is.
it's all designed and everything. I just think it's getting it scheduled to get it
Scheduled, okay.
on.
Because it should be done. It's a town vehicle. It's a people's vehicle. And it should be marked.
I have to say something for transparency. After our meeting, and I believe I know who the person was that emailed me, but I'd have to check 100%. I thought that they had sent me a snapshot saying, and I didn't have time to verify it because we had voted, but if it if the vehicle is used on a federal road or federal highway, if it's ever in that situation, it had to be legally marked.
Yep.
I thought I heard that, but I never could follow that. Because we had already voted. I don't know if that's true. That might be something for legal.
Does that go to,
Well, I don't know
is
if we're
that just
talking about.
fire? Is that police? Is it?
I thought they were referring to the fire. Oh, I think they were referring to the fire.
I've heard that through.
But I can't, I never looked, I'm not a lawyer, but if that's something you want to look up, I don't know if
I'm
that's a
not gonna
deal
sleep on
breaker.
I think the taxpayers have come to me and say, how come it's not marked?
We're the only town that has an unmarked one. I'm not counting Nashville, just saying around us, the other towns. And not counting Manchester.
You did research on it, didn't you, Troy?
Yeah, well, I think when we've had a formal presentation by the fire chief. Both police chief and fire chief had given a formal presentation, and they cited that the norm is moving towards unmarked chief vehicles.
Yeah.
There are marked vehicles, but that they are moving towards.
Some are, very few. And those who have had marked, and the chiefs have changed, certain chiefs, they all got remarked again. Okay?
I thought there was a list they gave us that they referred back to.
I'm pretty sure that the Londonderry fire chief is not marked, and the Hudson fire chief is not marked.
Command vehicles are marked. It says command on them.
Well, I'm
Talking about the difference between
talking
command
about
vehicles.
the vehicle assigned to the
chief.
Command vehicle should be in town going to a call.
Yeah, that's
Your officer in
another-
charge.
I mean,
That's another-
we've gone down that path a bunch of times.
I know you have.
I think your issue is that
Yeah.
contractually, you've got a contract, an employment agreement with your fire chief that he is provided with a town vehicle.
Yep.
The town vehicle that you have assigned to him is also the command vehicle.
We could change that though.
Which I think we should do an administrative vehicle, as we do with the police department.
Correct.
Yeah, because I don't think that vehicle should ever leave town. But this is a separate entity. We can discuss that later.
Well, I guess
Stick to
they're
where we're at.
overlapping, Bob, because one is we're assigning his vehicles, which is a command vehicle, and the command vehicle, I do agree, probably should be marked, but that's the chief's vehicle.
Well,
So
wait
I
a
think
minute.
the two do overlap in this situation.
So
They do.
So my thought on that is, if we're gonna go that route, is hypothetical. The chief takes the vehicle home to Bedford. He's 20 minutes out of town, okay? Say him and his wife go to dinner, maybe Concord. We get a call. That vehicle is needed. He's got to come back from Concord. Maybe he gets a flat tire. Maybe there's an accident. He can't get around. Now you're looking at 30 minutes to come from Concord, another 20 minutes here, that you're looking at over an hour that vehicle is not on a scene. And that's unacceptable to the taxpayers of the town. And we've heard this over and over again from residents that it's not acceptable. So if we're going to go this route and group them both together, I do think we need to buy him an administrative vehicle, but that all the vehicles need to be marked.
And I can agree with that. I just think because it is the chief's vehicle. I think also to that point about the command vehicle, it's been reported to us numerous times that they can do engine one, rescue one.
It's one of the other vehicles, but
One
what
of the other
if
ones.
that vehicle's down?
Correct, and that one. So it's a duplicate of it.
But
in
what if
this
it's
zone.
down?
We need two in town.
What the chief had provided was that if he was giving an administrative vehicle, it actually, in his opinion, for operational of the department, it wouldn't make sense because he would then be driving an administrative vehicle from wherever he was all the way to the fire station and then starting that vehicle up and getting it to the scene.
Well, why couldn't one of the first people, because everybody has to go to the fire station now. Why couldn't the first group go out in an engine, the second group go out in the command?
The officer in charge should have the command vehicle and they can bring him home if that's the case. On night calls.
Yeah.
Okay, and they can go out.
I'm
I
just
mean,
telling you,
I know we
fire-
went through
the
the
fire
same
chief,
dialogue. And
If he has an
gave us- I just don't
administrative vehicle,
remember.
he's going to report to the fire station.
He should,
That's-
he goes right to the call. Everybody else is
Administrative
there.
vehicle is going to go to the fire station
He's-
and not to the scene. That's the way I recall
But
the
if
conversation.
if the vehicle is already at the fire station and one of the first responders gets that to the scene before the chief gets there, he can go straight to the scene.
Yeah, And get in the command vehicle there.
Then he can run the site from there.
Yep.
I agree. I mean,
You
I
just do that for
wanted to
years.
Discuss just the lettering, but if we've gone down this road, then maybe this is something else we need to do.
Mm-hmm. I make a motion that we have the car marked.
Is there any chief's contract?
Can't do it.
Yeah, that would prohibit us from taking the action that you're thinking about.
No. He's just provided a
We
vehicle.
provide with a town vehicle.
We pay the fuel for it too?
We pay for everything. I'll second Mr. Lynch's motion.
Do we have further discussion?
Are we just talking about them all, or we're just talking about?
Just the
fire?
fire chief's car, because that's the only unmarked vehicle there.
Are we talking the fire chief's car? Or are we talking the command vehicle?
Command vehicle,
For now, yeah.
but now,
It's just.
That may
a command
change
vehicle
later.
for now.
Do we have an administrative car to give them?
No, we do not.
Well, we're not saying it has to stay in town now until we can provide him with a vehicle. But at some point, that's separate. We're just talking about lettering it right now. Just the lettering, the marking it with the town decals.
Do you want to hear from the chief to see if he has input? Was he invited? I don't know.
we've already had a discussion with
I know,
him.
that's what I'm saying. We've already.
We had a
gone through this.
discussion, we made a
voted
motion,
certain
and
way.
we voted based on the discussion we had with police and fire. Now it's back in front of us.
And I voted no because they were grouped together.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
I said, I think it's a town vehicle and it needs to be marked.
Okay, all those in favor? Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
All right.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am a no, motion carries 410. Next, we have library impact fees, but our library representative left, I believe.
She had a meeting.
I said something to her.
Yeah, there was a library meeting tonight.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Brown, are you able
Yeah.
to speak to
So
it?
no, this has been an issue that probably has been on the selectmen's agenda for maybe a year now. As you recall, the library trustees had
Right here.
came to
Really
the
weird
board of
situation.
selectmen and asked if they could use impact fees to build a pavilion. And I had checked with the consultant he had hired. I wasn't involved with it, but the town had hired to do the whole methodology impact fee analysis. And it was in his opinion that it would not be an appropriate use of impact fees, for, on how and why they were collected. Legal counsel concurred and said, in her opinion, this would be a misuse of the fees. However, she said, and had several questions, very targeted about of the library as far as patrons and activities. And I got to give credit to the library trustees. Laura Gandy led the effort, and she provided a lot of information to Laura Spector Morgan, our legal counsel. And based on legal counsel then said, I am now comfortable, and you have that correspondence here. She's very comfortable recommending to the Board of Selectmen that these impact fees could be used to construct the pavilion because it is going to add added space for programs and materials and all this, that goes on. The pavilion will be added in structural space. So we've gone around, and I got to give credit again to the library trustees for doing the research and providing legal counsel with the information they needed. The balance that we have currently available right now is $44,000. The trustees updated the pavilion cost estimate, and right now it's estimated $31,135. So I would, if the board wishes to do so, recommend that you authorize up to $44,000. Because these projects, can have a little change order or something like that. And that would encumber those funds specifically for the pavilion project.
And now this is going to go through the planning board process. Does it have to go to historical because of the building?
I would recommend that that the board actually put a condition on the use of impact fees with a condition that this go through a courtesy review with the planning board. And that will give notification, to all of our boards and committees. It'll be a public process for people to come in and give input.
Yeah, it is.
It's a courtesy review.
It's a
I
considered
would add the
structure.
historical society to that too.
Yeah, it just allows a legal
Yeah.
process to come in and ask questions. And raise
Historical
concerns.
heritage, yeah.
So a pavilion would be a structure, so that should go. They'd have to look at occupancy, that kind of thing. I don't know where the septic is for that building.
None.
If it's where the pavilion's going, or
That doesn't affect, okay?
Okay,
It's-
good.
But it's an outside function.
Mhm.
They're gonna be outside doing something on the bathrooms and not, the inside's not gonna be used much.
I just mean traffic in the area,
Yeah, it's
that kind of a.
septic wise, you won't have any issues with it. Because the loads are not considered at the pavilion, the stage area. You got people, they have people there now on the lawn.
Mhm.
That's what they're trying to do, get a pavilion for them to sit on while they're on the lawn.
Don't want a septic failure.
Yeah,
While they're in the tent.
So
sitting underneath stuff, that's what it is.
but I recommend just releasing the money that they're asking for, the
I concur.
31,000.
Yep.
Only because if there's extra money, I'm not saying them, but it tends to get spent. So maybe keep the extra money back just in case. Because if we release 44,000 and they go over that, then
That's another problem.
But those BM something, or sorry about the name.
BTO.
BLM. When I read it last time, the impact something that was attached to the building or a new building.
expansion, I think it was, right?
Yeah, it had to be
Something's
attached
tied to it.
or it had to be attached to the building or a new building.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying if I go by the letter of that.
So it's going to be attached by a sidewalk.
No. That's, and when I was reading about the spacing, it was based on number of employees in the building when they were doing those kind of calculations. I don't think it was about patrons, but even if I let that maybe look at. So I'm just saying and the other thing, Jay Mancari is redoing all of the impact fees right now. I'm not sure when he expects to be done with that. It's probably a big process, I would think.
Well, I think it's on the agenda.
It's coming up, but I don't know when he'll be done. But he is rewriting a lot of that right now.
Which will, the reason we're doing that is because, it will be a new revised methodology and be easier for us to identify what we can spend the impact fees on.
But right now, it says it has to be attached to the building, like an addition or new.
That was, so
That's
it was,
what it
well,
said.
no, that was in his opinion.
Yeah.
And then
Laura.
we went to our legal counsel and she concurred with that, but she put, had other questions. If you can provide me with data X, Y, and Z, I'll look at this again. And the library trustees are able to do it. And she said, yeah, I'm comfortable defending this.
I don't see that detail.
Yeah.
I see a result from the
Yeah.
lawyer, but I don't know what they did for an argument.
Oh, there was like a 3-page document, very thorough.
I just don't have the information. That's all. I'm just saying I don't have the information to look at.
So I'm just curious.
If you want, I guess we can,
Yeah, something around there.
if you wait, and we can have the library trustees come in your next meeting.
Maybe 100.
I can get you the correspondence that was shared with legal counsel.
Use that as an apartment.
I just want to make sure if we're supposed to follow that
Yeah.
current methodology, are we doing that? That's all.
I know when I
Big,
dealt with
but
this
that's all.
before with pavilions and stuff like that on town land, and the town wants to do something, they just went out and did it and got the approval, because the town doesn't have to follow the rules. I'll just say that in a way. Okay? If they come in with a presentation saying to the Board of Selectmen, which is the final say on this, okay? And they are too, they're board. And then bring it out as public information in the whole 9 yards, encourage it.
Well, they already presented to us.
Yeah, but I don't know where.
I think what Kim is asking is to go back once from BM Bruce Mayberry. Bruce
Yes.
Mayberry.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Go back and have, review his original response, look at Laura's response when she concurred, and then take a look at the information the library trustees provided that reversed Laura's legal opinion. I think that's what you're saying. You'd like to
Yeah, I
have
don't
all
have that
data
piece.
before.
I just have the
And that's
conclusion.
That's a fair request.
I'm just curious, is this gonna have power and lighting?
It should.
Yeah, it's going to have
Yes, it
power
will, yeah.
because that's part of
It's part of the bid,
price.
yeah. And I would just state that I'm a firm believer that, number one, I don't like impact fees. I think hitting a homeowner when they first move in is terrible, but we have them, we deal with them. When they're designated to go to a certain entity, which in this case, the library, I really don't have a problem with them spending it the way they see fit. I said the same thing when the school came to us for the HVAC repairs. That building was built in probably 1914, I think, somewhere around there, maybe before then.
I don't
At the
remember.
time, the town of Litchfield had about 150, maybe 200 residents. It's never going to be expanded. So the only thing you're going to be able to do is add on things outside for outside festivities and whatever. But you're never going to make the building bigger because it just doesn't have the size. They built it as big as they could at the time. Yeah. It's all wet behind and yeah, they're just not going to be able to. So by doing this, I think it's a really great use of the money. I really do, other than doing a full renovation of the building. But
Ruin the character of the whole thing.
ruin the character. My grandfather would roll in his grave because he was the GC.
Yep.
But that being said, I think this is an awesome use of the money. And I as Kim stated, have them come in and represent to us and then have us move forward on this.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern is just to make sure, I agree with everything you said, just to make sure that it fits the impact process, and we're not going to get, if it's ever challenged, that we don't have to go pay the bill back.
I think Laura has already protected us in that. That's my feeling so far. Okay, and I've been
I
involved
agree
with this
Kim, too.
before.
We should, let's
At
just
least have the data to review.
dot our i's and cross our t's. But
Okay, we'll get them invited to come in and give you a presentation, and
Gonna be an
we'll
administrator.
get that all the final information out to you. There's a PDF.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron Cutler was your cousin.
no.
All right, I think that brings us to CIP appointment. I
Where are we at? Okay.
think we're on number 7 now. I'm jumping around tonight.
Yeah. So
Let me
this
send you
is a. We had so the CIP committee is in the process of meeting and trying to get going on updating the CIP plan, the capital improvements plan, and also, putting together a recommended list for the use of ARPA funds. At the same time, they've been trying to interview residents that have expressed interest in serving on the vacant position, which is we have 2 citizens at large. And, we've advertised, we had 3 individuals come forward, 2 backed out. We've had 1 individual that has been interviewed and expressed interest. His name's Brian Bork. Brian also serves on the budget committee. He's an elected official on the budget committee.
School board.
And the capital improvements committee has a budget committee representative. So it was, Mrs. Queenan was at the meeting. It wasn't really clear as to how we left this, but it sounded like the CIP committee wanted the board to consider, if Mr. Bork really fits the definition of citizen at large, or if they feel because he serves as an elected budget committee member that it might be, I don't know if it's a word, conflict, but just, could, be perceived to be a conflict of interest.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
It really is a tough one.
I would agree with that, though. I would agree. I think it is a conflict to be already a voting member of the budget committee and be on the CIP.
I concur with that. I'll be honest with you. The CIP committee is taking the funding, and proposals to the town stuff like that. And then the budget committee and the board of selectmen, okay, are gonna be involved with which, what, and what. I don't want two people in the same knocking heads. That's how I feel about it.
Well, the budget committee is a non-voting member. So that's where it really comes down to. Now the perception could be now you have a budget committee member who's a citizen, but now a voting member.
Well, you're telling me under CIP,
Budget committee is non-voting.
So Carrie Douglas is a representative of the CIP.
It's non-voting.
It's a non-voting
for
member.
budget committee.
Because whatever has to come before the budget committee anyways.
Correct. So you don't want to speak.
and Brian Bork, who has been on the budget committee.
And I will say that when he was the school board representative
That's
on
my
the CIP, he did a very good job. He did a good job on it, representing the school. He had great input back and forth. But it's a tough one. It's that real gray area
It's a
that
conflict because
it is.
he'd be twice a voting member, so that, CIP committee and then the budget committee.
And that's the tough part. Because, when you're in a small town like ours, you only get the same people stepping up over and over again, right? So you hate to say no to somebody, but I sit here and I look at it and I struggle with it. I really do.
The way they said was, so the planning board, the ones that can vote, there are 5. A planning board member, Mike Roto. School board is Andrew Cutter. I'm there as Board of Selectmen. Citizen 1 is Peter Stone. And then
Great number.
Mr. Bork is trying to get the second citizenship rep. The 4 non-voting ones are Budget Committee, which is Kerry, Jay Mankara, Troy is there, and the business administrator for the school, right, Corey. So what is happening is, if he could just take the citizen part, that would be great. But he's the same person as both, right? He's a citizen plus he's budget. So what Mr. Burks was trying to say was he already approached the budget committee and asked if there'd be a conflict, and they said because it was an advisory role only, that it may not be a conflict. So the pros for him are he has served on it before and has done a good job. He does have the school expertise and he now has some budget, but we do also see the conflict. So I think that they were looking for some guidance.
Yeah.
I think they said back in 2019, when this committee was formed, you made the budget committee member a non-voting member.
So what happened was back when we asked the budget committee, we wanted to be an inclusive. So we asked the budget committee, we wanted the school, we wanted cross-function, we wanted everybody here. We did a warrant article to get 2 citizens to be part of it. When we approached the budget committee to say, would you sit on this? There was a lot of discussion back and forth, and they agreed to sit on it as long as it wasn't a voting member. Because they didn't want to vote on something, then have to vote on it again. So they wanted it there as advisory. Look at it from a budget standpoint, from a level tax base over the years and how to shift and prioritize from that standpoint, but actually not to vote on the items that get brought forth to the Board of Selectmen.
Who were the 5 voting members again?
Planning board,
Yeah.
school board,
School board.
Board of Selectmen, rep,
2 citizens.
and 2 citizens.
And 2 citizens. Okay.
So
Yeah.
then we have the 2 business from the town and school that sit on it. We have our regional planner.
The 2 business.
Yeah, so we have Troy.
Well, he's the town administrator.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's what I meant, from the business side of each one.
And then budget.
Yeah, and then we have the budget committee. Do we have any other citizens that have come forward?
So at the time that the budget committee was doing the interviews and stuff, we had just 3, but I do have another citizen that's come forward that, the CIP committee could interview. So
Bring him in.
I would like to push this off to the next meeting and maybe pursue another voting member because I do think it's a conflict of interest. I know he has good meanings, good intentions, but I think it's imperative that we look at other options and not create a conflict.
I commend him for stepping forward and wanting to help out in another aspect.
it's a very difficult.
It's real hard.
And you could argue both ways.
Mhm.
But I think the fact that the budget committee has taken a position that they want to have a representative on, but yet they want that person to be non-voting.
They want to be
have
neutral.
no say in it. So that when it comes back to the budget committee, and the budget committee will act on almost everything that's in the CIP as a whole body, they don't want any of their members. My feeling is that they didn't want any membership already acting, voting on this issue.
Correct. That was
That's
back
why
in
it was a
2019.
non-voting
Yep.
member, only for good communication going back to CIP committee. If Mr. Bork serves as a voting member on the budget committee and a citizen at large, he's literally going to take voting action
Mhm.
on CIP. And then we'll vote again as a whole board of budget committee.
Yep.
And I think that's what the budget committee was trying to prevent by saying, we'll
Correct.
have a representative, communication purposes only, non-voting.
Mhm.
So I agree. Let's push this off to the next meeting, see what the next round of interview. CIP is having a meeting, what, next Monday?
It will be, no, it's, hold on, I have it. That's on my first bullet here. That, the next
Come on,
meeting.
Kim.
I know, hold on.
1 week or 2 weeks, or 1 week or 3 weeks.
Let's see, it's scheduled for Monday, July 4th.
All right, well,
I'm
that's
not sure
getting
when we're
pushed.
meeting.
I know.
That's probably getting pushed to what, 18th now?
Are we gonna have it? No.
I do know that you have to be careful of allowing somebody to have 2 bites from the apple.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well spoken.
So if we could do it until after they have a chance to interview the other citizen, so we
And
can
see if anybody else comes forward.
yeah,
Put it on Facebook, get more
Put it on the
information out.
times, yep.
been out everywhere.
Has it been on Facebook?
Yeah,
Is it?
we've reached out for it. All right, next we have Avitar assessing property inspections. Mr. Brown.
I know Selectman Larry had probably received some feedback from residents about the assessors walking around people's properties. And so he wanted to bring this, for a discussion before the board. As you probably aware, Avitar, they do our annual data verifications. We have a contract with them where they'll go out and I'll say a quarter of the town. They will do data verification, which means that they will visit each property. Their intent is to be able to get inside the property, but if they can't, they do their best to update the records. But they do a walk around the property, do a measure and list, see if there's anything that they've missed, a pool, for example, going up, or a pool that's been removed, sheds, that kind of stuff. So it's all once every 4 years, they try to visit the property and just verify data. A letter is sent out to each homeowner informing them that they have been chosen or selected for this data verification process, and outlines everything that they'd be doing, and instructs them that if you do not want someone, to be walking around your property, that you need to notify them. So it's kind of a notification saying, we're going to be out at your property sometime, in this time frame. We're going to have IDs, our vehicles marked. We're going to come up, knock on your door. If you allow us in, we'll go in. But if no one's there, we're going to walk around your property. If you don't want us to walk around your property, you need to contact us and we'll remove you from the inspection.
Okay.
So that letter was sent, which when you had sent this email out, I was unaware that we did a direct mailing to all the homes.
Yep. Well, I had a couple of residents contact me, and one of them said that she was actually occupied doing something in the house, and they were peeking in her windows. That's unacceptable. That cannot happen. If they're going to go and walk the property, I understand they need to do it, but to be looking in somebody's windows, I'm telling you right now, they're asking for trouble. Okay, they're asking for trouble.
Just tell them to be a little more discreet.
They have no reason to look in somebody's windows, period. Knock on the door. If nobody answers, they don't want you.
I had a personal experience with this week.
Oh, did
My
they
wife, my wife says, Rich, there's somebody out here. And I said, well, who is it? She says, I have no idea. They're out in the garage. I said, what? Okay. So I look outside and I see it's an Avitar, but he was measuring like the opening to the garage. But I do agree with Robert that and there's a big difference between opt-in and opt-out.
Yeah.
Okay. So much mail comes, and I agree, you know, but I mean, a lot of mail gets tossed because, you know, and they need to be able to function. They need to be able to do their job. I mean, peeking in the windows is not a good thing. I mean, I don't know what we do.
Well, I think just bringing it up tonight to say that the Avitar is out and about doing their 4-year thing that has to be done by law. The legislators require it. Okay, but be courteous. You can walk, you know, you're going to knock on the door, there's no one home, you're just going to look at the outside, that's all you can do. Okay?
I think you just make a phone call to the management and just say, it was reported to us
Just tell them, don't look in the windows.
that one of your people were peeking in a window. Please refrain from doing so. Please talk to them.
And I don't think they knocked on the door, but who knows, you know? But
Because if somebody's getting out of the shower or something and you're in your home, you expect to be protected. You know, we had a large group here tonight talking about this, you know, being protected in our own homes. I mean,
I'd sell tickets.
well, if it was my wife and they were speaking in the window, they'd be missing one Avitar person. I can tell you that right now.
Do they put a flag out or something when they arrive on the property? Like
They don't put a-
where you can see it if you open your front door. You
No,
can
I
see
got
it.
them on my video.
They do,
just
you
pull
know,
up
and
do
they
their
do
thing.
leave a, once,
Leave a
they're
tag.
supposed to
A
leave a
tag.
door tag.
They did.
They show up in a marked vehicle with a tag on.
The door tag
They
is
do
what
it
I
and they
did.
put a door tag on. If you don't let them in.
That they're done.
They're gonna give me for
That
it.
they were there.
So if you opened your door and saw somebody, at least you know who they were. If there's a flag or something.
You're in trouble.
But they're well marked. If you look at the vehicle, it says Avitar.
I'll protect my family to the last drop.
I mean, we could put something on social media that
You can do it, yeah,
yeah,
social
we could
media.
put something on social media just saying Avitar's out doing inspections.
That's all.
And it's a white SUV
Usually.
Yeah.
that has Avitar right on the door. It's about this big.
Yep.
Avitar property, whatever.
He beeped at me and when he drove by and waved, I know him. Yeah.
But we
Well, I
need to
gotta say-
notify them too that
On the
looking
town
in
website.
people's windows is not acceptable, period. End
Okay.
of discussion there.
Yeah, we're done.
So I'll reach out to them and make them aware that
Thank
we
you.
received that complaint and that is not, you know, acceptable. And I'll also do a quick social media blast
I appreciate
That'd
it.
be great.
because like Rich said, you know, hell, and there's no guarantee they read it. So,
Yep.
but
I mean, they have to do what they have to do. Just, you know, looking in the window is not cool. It's a good way to get hurt.
I think I could almost guarantee that 90% of the people do not read it.
Oh, without a doubt, it gets thrown away. All right, moving on. We're at the prime cap agreement, property liability and workman's compensation. Mr. Brown.
So every 3 years, we have a cap agreement with our insurance company. So Primex provides us with property liability and workers' comp, and they also do our unemployment. The cap agreement it's a commitment of the town stating that we are going to continue to use you as our insurance agent, and they guarantee, in exchange for that, they guarantee you a maximum rate increase, no matter whatever your claims are.
No more than
the
9%.
maximum rate increase. So the proper, and this has worked out really well. We've never even hit the max rate. I think over the last 3-4 years in our budget process, we're always nervous, but it always comes in at a very competitive price. And also you need to understand Primex is a very specialized insurance company. They only deal with municipalities, schools, and county government. So they're not out there insuring any private sector business. They offer a tremendous amount of training, and they work with our staff, they work with our department heads, and they work with our legal counsel on issues. So a really great company. So anyhow, it's a 3-year agreement. I'd like to have the board authorize me to approve the cap agreement for property liability and the workers' comp.
So it looks like the cap on the P and L is what, 9%?
For property liability, it'd be 9%, and the workers' comp would be at 10%. So
Hasn't changed much at all.
Is that kind of in line with what it's been over the past years?
yeah, we haven't hit those. We've not hit that.
Yeah, but every year it's kind of the same 9s and 10s is what they propose, but we never get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been getting
May change.
we've been coming in right around what 5, 4.5%, 5%.
3 to 5, I'd
So
say.
since
Yeah.
I've been here, yeah.
We don't have many issues that require us to use that.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, that's after.
Even
that.
even our work, the one that's probably the
Flagpole.
it's probably the workers at the flagpole. Well, workers' comp is the one that is really rated on experience, and you could have a couple bad years.
Yes.
And if you did, you're protected
You're
by
right.
no more than a 10% jump.
Yep. Okay. I move to allow the town administrator to negotiate the Primax P&L and the workman's comp insurance coverage.
We have a motion by Mr. Larry.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Mr. Lynch. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Larry.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on, NRPC impact fees and capital improvement plan contracts.
All right, we've talked about this this evening. We talked about it, I think, in a prior meeting. The National Regional Planning Commission. We've reached out to them to put together a proposal to update our impact fee methodology. So that will be based on the approved capital improvement plan. So NRPC is working with us right now, working with the Capital Improvements Committee, updating our plan. The goal here is to take that spreadsheet that we've seen over the last couple of years and turn it into a more formal document like we've had way back in 2013, I think it was, where it provides all the background information as to why these capital needs are being requested. That cost will be $2,000. Once that report's done, then they'll move on to doing the analysis for the impact fees, and that report will cost $2,500.
Sounds fair.
Sounds low.
Very, very low, but
It's
that's,
good money.
we are a member of the Regional Planning
Mhm.
Commission, so we get the discounted price.
We'll make a motion that we accept the impact fee and the CIP update.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Ms. Queenan. Any further discussion?
Yeah, doesn't the CIP do the same report for us that
No, NRPC puts it together for us.
for the CIP committee
CIP, yeah.
With them.
with them?
So that's why the planner sits there. So he takes all the data, he builds that spreadsheet that we see, and now there's a lot of other data that's going to go around it into a booklet that the last time we saw the booklet was 2015.
Yeah, it's like I said, 2013, 2015.
Yeah, it was somewhere right in there. It was old.
It's an old one.
So they're going to put all the data around it.
Go ahead.
And we need to have a CIP plan in order to have impact fees.
That's right.
So we could get rid of the impact fees.
I know it's one of your strong points.
Do we have any
I don't
further
have to pay 'em,
discussion?
but I hate them.
All those in favor, Mr. Larry? Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. Next we have is the PFOA State Committee Representative.
Everybody's going in business.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
What about the audit completed Hudson Water Tower, Hudson Radio Tower?
I don't. It's not on the old school one.
Came up today, I remember a discussion.
Let's do the PFOA.
I don't have that.
I got a call from Rosemary Grung, who is the de facto chairman of the PFOA committee. She's from Merrimack, and I guess there are 3 people that are on the committee from Litchfield at this point. And I have to be honest and say that I haven't participated a heck of a lot. And I know that Mr. Bohm hasn't either. And it's sort of discouraging being on that because you never see, and of course, I don't know that I had a discussion with Mr. Bowman this afternoon, and he said that nothing because of the summer. But if there was somebody out there in the community that wanted to really dig into this, that they'd be given the opportunity to represent the town. I don't know how Crystal feels about it, but April, I'm sorry.
That's a good name for her.
Crystal, let's not using that one, Bob.
How long you gonna live?
But that if somebody was really motivated, that it'd be a good way to get their feet wet, But I just wanted to bring it up and let the chips fall where they may, as far as that goes.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything that's real pressing as far as this goes.
Yeah, April had the same feedback that it doesn't seem like anything ever happens. It's just a lot of talk over and over again. And the action is slow.
You're dealing with government. I don't know how else to say that.
So what was the other agenda item that I don't see here, that
Another agenda item?
the Hudson Tower or something?
It's mentioned
Audit,
on
it
this
says
town
audit,
minutes.
on the town administrator report says audit completed in Hudson Radio Tower.
Oh,
I'm jumping the gun.
That's when we get there. Okay.
Let's go to the
I'm
audit
sorry,
report.
Troy, I'm stealing your thunder.
So let's go to town administrative report. Bob, would you like to give it this evening?
Hey, the audit's completed.
So our audit is completed. Karen White and myself sat down with the auditor. We went over the draft report. It was all a clean report. Again, it was good information. The auditor will be in at your next meeting and he'll go over it. We had again another good financial year. So I think our fund balance grew by a little over $200,000. So the unassigned fund balance. So again, the details, we'll get the draft out to you when I have it. They were just doing some adjustments to the infrastructure, the roads that we picked up this year, Firefly and another road. So that's part of the whole trial balance, adding those assets. Also, I just want to give a heads up, the Hudson Public Works Department, they've notified us that they're going to install a 50-foot radio communication tower, which isn't that really that big of a tower, at the Weinstein well and 74 Cutler Road. So they've given this as a regional notice. It's gone to the planning board, so I know the planning board will be discussing it if you haven't already. I've reached out to Hudson, just asked if for any reason we could put equipment to improve our communication, if that would be acceptable, and they've indicated, it'd be no problem. And our police and fire department. So anyhow, I'm sure it's going to go through the formal process with the planning board. I don't expect there to be really
Not
any
much to be
problems.
said because going back to the fact that the municipality issue.
So do they pay taxes on that property?
They pay a payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay, because with what you just said, with putting the equipment on the tower, maybe that in lieu of increased payment, it would benefit the town, I think, because we have the four towers in town. If we tap into that, it's a whole nother area, make a stronger network.
Yeah, I mean, John's aware. Mr. Brunel's aware of it, and
he can handle it.
So we'll see. Yeah.
Why would Hudson want to put a radio tower in?
Well, it's part of the, I think my understanding is new federal regulations for safety. So it's for them to be able to communicate with any emergency notices, detectors or stuff. So they already have my guess is a landline communication, and now they're going with a radio communication.
But why would they put it in physically in the town of Litchfield?
Because that's where the wells and the pump house is.
So it's the well and the pump house. So
So it's really not for It's for,
Their
maybe
equipment.
online.
Yep.
If a pump fails, it's some kind of communication
Okay.
with their well house and their
Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah.
Is that one shut down?
No,
It's not. That's the one that's still in.
that's the only one that's running. The Duchamp one is down right now because of the color.
It's not too shut. It's damn.
Could we, for the
It's down.
benefit of us old folks,
Another's old one.
could we throw another log in the fire?
Not that one.
I am freezing.
Oh.
Here, I'll turn it up for you.
I'll fix it. It's very, I'm very good at this. You are freezing?
I am.
Do we have,
chilly.
It's
do we need blankets?
I have bad circulation.
I'm good. Just give it.
Kevin cuddle with him.
I'll freeze.
That's what his wife says.
And on camera.
How's 70, Rich?
It was 70 in here, it said, but it feels colder than that.
It does.
Maybe I'm.
We could turn the
Just
fans
turned
on.
on,
I'll
is
help
that
bring the
you?
heat
it
back.
just turned on.
Oh,
and-
you just did that.
Oh, I'm freezing.
All the heat's up there, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Vaulted ceiling?
You have
That's what you got
You have
there.
goose pimples, Rich.
All right, the last item that I have, I reached out to Chairman Weber and I've spoke to each selectman today. And that is, it's with regret that I must submit my resignation from employment here as your town administrator. I sent Mr. Weber a letter last week because my contract does have a 60-day notification provision. And I'll read it for the record. I had asked Mr. Weber if he would hold off on making any announcement until I had an opportunity to reach out and communicate to each of you individually. Dear Chairman Weber, please accept this letter as formal notification of my resignation from the position of town administrator with the town of Litchfield. My last day of employment will be Sunday, August the 7th, 2022. I wish to thank everyone for the opportunity to work in this role for almost 7 years. I've learned so much with the Board of Selectmen, department heads, boards, and committees. I also want to thank the Board of Selectmen for their support throughout and passing of my father. I asked Chairman Weber, respectfully ask that you keep my resignation confidential until the Monday, June 13th Select Board meeting. This will allow time for me to personally inform employees Monday afternoon. So I was able to reach out to each selectman and most of the employees I was able to make contact with today. So, but officially submitting my resignation, and Sunday, August the 7th will be my last day of work. So, and that one sentence I do want to reiterate. There was about a year in the middle of the pandemic that I had, my father got COVID. He ended up in the hospital for about 14 days. He was released, barely alive. And I spent a lot of time commuting back and forth up to Maine. And he recovered. And then shortly after he passed. And then, of course, I went through COVID myself, then family members. And so it was kind of a rough year that I had. And this board was so supportive every single day. And that was really important for me. So this is, I'm very hopeful that I have an opportunity that really is in line with my career objectives. And even though things aren't finalized, I'm pretty confident that they will be, but I can't make that announcement until a few more weeks.
You may change your mind.
Yeah. If it doesn't work out, maybe I'll come back.
We were good for you and you're kicking us down the road.
Yeah.
So
The hard part with this is that, I look at the board and back when I was hired, some of the interview questions, and I can remember Steve Perry, and he was very concerned about how long are you going to work for us? And I actually said, I would, if you look at my resume, I've worked 6 or 8 years in each community, and I'm trying to grow. And he says, it's exactly the answer I wanted. He goes, if you would have said 3 years, I'm not going to hire you. And I'll never forget that, and I've always worried that, well, would I live up to his, 6-year minimum standard? And I did. So, but again, this community's taught me a lot. It's been a great opportunity. Litchfield's a great community. So I'm very proud that I was able to be part of it. And you have an excellent town, excellent community. It's well engaged, and that's what makes it such a great community. It's hard for me to submit this resignation. I think people know that I'm not a Litchfield resident, but I live 1 mile down the road, so I feel like I'm a Litchfield resident. This is where I spend most of my time.
We could have given you a personal car. Justified it.
Well, I think it's a huge loss for the town and for me personally. I am really happy for you because I think it's going to be the right thing for you, going in the right direction. And it's great that you're going to have a chance to grow.
Thank you.
Troy, it's been a wonderful experience except for one day. Okay. Which you had no control over, but you've done a great job.
Thank
okay. And appreciate everything you've done for us. I won't mention that day.
We go from here as far as
we got to go look for something.
Well, hopefully we can post it, have Troy as part of our to give us their input and get something close in 60 days.
We should do it.
I think there's a lot of
municipal association.
Yeah, so we can, I think we can get notice out there this week, get it out there on the municipal website. I would give I'd give a 3-week lead time of encouraging people to apply. I think it's important in today's environment that we pick a date and say, hey, we want your applications in by this time, until the position is filled, just in case some names come in a few days after the deadline or something like that.
See what candidates.
I literally saw a town recently advertise where they put out the announcement, the town of Bristol, and I'd not seen that before, but they put out the announcement. They're recruiting a town administrator, and the position will remain open until filled. They didn't even put a deadline. So if the right candidate came knocking on the door and it was a good fit, basically there's no deadline for everyone to wait around for. Yep. You could start that process sooner than later, and that is an option.
You're in a market where a lot of people are looking, people are willing to jump. The only downside of that is usually it's a higher price point that they'll jump for.
Well,
so I think we start the process as soon as possible.
I think as faster you go, the better off we are for the future.
Yeah.
And I like Troy to be here doing part of the interviewing with us as well, because he knows the inside out.
Now, do we have a formal job description?
Oh yeah.
But is it 7 years old?
No, it's
revised just
recently. Back when I was hired, but
yeah, 7 years ago. 7 years ago.
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed. It's a good
administrative
position. So we can go with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
I think we should require the person to live in town and that they have girls that play softball.
Very helpful.
That's a big plus.
Very big.
Down
especially at a younger age.
Sports
10 or under.
Well, I would just like to say that I was a new freshman selectman here, and on the budget committee, and we had a little firestorm here one night because I voted no on something, and certain people at another board didn't like it. And Mr. Brown was the first one to stand up for me and come to my defense. And I've never forgot that. And I was thinking about not running in this last term. And his words to me were, what? I just got you trained.
I did say that.
And you know what, Troy, I've learned an awful lot from you in the last 3.5 years. And I can't express to you enough my thanks to you for everything you've done for me.
Thank you.
I'm gonna miss you.
Be a
All right.
pacemaker
Mhm.
now?
I've learned a lot from you too. And that's, I tell you what, in my career,
Piss people off.
well, you know what? It's the one interesting thing in my career is, I've worked in 5 different communities since I was the age of 23. I was in Limestone, Maine, Londonderry, New Hampshire, Pembroke, New Hampshire, Hollis, New Hampshire, and Litchfield. So this is what I've been doing. I've never had a break. I've been a town administrator, working with planning boards, budget committees, selectmen. And every time I leave a community, I go away with memories of meeting those people that are engaged in their community. And, you just don't forget those individuals. There's always people that have that impact on you. I've just always, I'll always remember Pat Jewett.
Mhm.
I'm so fortunate that I had an opportunity to meet Pat Jewett. She was
One of a
my
kind.
first phone call as a concerned resident.
Troy, I just want to say one thing. I've been in government for almost 44 years as a town employee too. And what you said meant more. With all the towns that I've worked in, okay, knowing them, the people we work, the Board of Selectmen, town administrators, I went through many of them, okay, but it's always been good. And you have shown the same thing. It's been good. I want to thank you. Except for one administrator.
I'd like to thank you also because I first walked into the
Thank you.
town
You
hall
always
as a
did that,
citizen
you know that.
for the Historical Society, and I was petrified. And I worked with you, and I worked with you, and then I worked with you, and I'm like, wow, local government can actually work. So I would really like to thank you for everything you've done on all the projects that you have helped me with. Wish you good luck.
You got to get this all down right.
Being a town administrator, you have to deal with so many personalities, and so many power struggles, and all sorts of things, and it's an interesting position to be put in, a very challenging position.
It is.
And I think that I've thanked you privately, and I think you'll be missed.
We do want to know where you're going next so we can give them a warning. I have a sense of humor. I deal with
I
stuff.
think you've also looked out for the taxpayers more than I expected when I started sitting in this chair. In a town where a lot of people, a lot of boards like to spend a lot of the people's money, you've always kept that in mind. Point being, when we were in COVID,
Yep.
and we did a freeze, and you jumped on that, and you went to all the department heads, and we got rave reviews from the budget committee for doing that. And I think you've always looked out for the people of the town because I think that's just the kind of person you are.
Great set practice.
Yeah, you got a lot of practice. You can't hold the job, but we're all gonna be kisses.
You met the country boys. That's all I can say here. Too.
I am.
Yep.
Selectmen reports after that sad news. Ms. Carr, out to my left.
I'll go quickly. Mailed in my minutes, my committee reports last time. So if anybody wants to read those, I know you all have, but for the public who didn't have a chance to see them, they can look at the May 23rd, 2022 minutes, and you'll see.
By the way, thanks for sending me the ones I couldn't open.
PDF, you have to open that. So if you just want to learn about the Albuquerque electronic cars and all of that, you can read that. As far as this week, the capital improvement plan met on June 6th. The next meeting is scheduled for July 4th, although I have a feeling that'll be changed. I want to, Troy, you guys said something pretty profound in that meeting that I want to tell the group here is when we were looking at the SIP plan, the spreadsheets, we had the highway department in when we went over what they wanted to potentially do with the ARPA funds, but you mentioned that the SIP plan was based in the past on a tax cap of 10%. And due to that tax cap, some of the SIP plan relied more on leasing instead of, having the cash on hand. So with the ARPA, some of the projects in SIP aren't bound to that thinking. So I think Jay Mankar is going to have to work with a couple of different report scenarios of what happens if there is no ARPA money and what happens if there is ARPA money applied. So just wanted to bring that forward. So again, we should meet in July. I'm not sure when. We are going to try to get more meetings going, maybe twice a month, because we know budget season and it is going to approach real quickly before the summer, and we might need warrant articles. So we're going to try. I know coordinating it's been difficult. The planning board met on last time. Well, let me do this. The planning board meets this July 21st, 7:00 p.m. here at the town hall. We'll continue the workshop on the safety concerns on Albuquerque.
July or June?
July. Did I say June? I might have.
No, I thought you said July 21st.
Yeah. Right. I did write July. It's June 21st. Jeez. Thank you.
Thank goodness we have Kevin to keep Kim straight.
That's right. Oh, good.
You need some real help.
You were right. So on the last meeting, let me see. We didn't have a meeting on June 7th because there was nothing on the agenda. So there's only two in process that we've been working on. Since our last meeting with NRPC, we did start to do the traffic studies in Albuquerque. NRPC, you might notice there's a wire going across the pedestrian way on and pedestrian counts.
Good.
Yeah, and we'll continue to work about signage and painted crosswalks.
So if you jump over, it doesn't count.
No, you can't jump. You can't
Or if
jump
you
on
go
it
back
20
and
times
forth.
either.
You go back and forth, it double counts, right?
There'll be some kids doing that.
Yeah. But we had also had an inquiry come in about the current process of how you file complaints at the town hall, especially due to site plans and maybe not just site plans, other things. So I have met with Mr. Kevin Lynch, our Jeff Blackwell, our building inspector, code enforcement officer, twice. I've met with Troy. The calls. I met with John Brunel in IT to see some solutions there. And I've also this morning spoke with the police department. So I have all that information here. Let me get it into like 2 or 3 sheets for everybody. And then the next thing is after I summarize that, we'll propose standardizing a process. There's one already. I asked John Brunel about a prototype, but I guess you have one with the highway department now and maybe conservation. He brought them on board. So basically, once it's in the system, it'll get emailed directly to whoever it's supposed to go to at that point.
We have one here for the town too, for complaints as well.
Yeah.
It's paper forms.
Yep, I have that here, yeah. And I got one online as well, so yeah.
Good.
And then we'll bring all that to the board and then, based on what you say, inform the parties involved. So it started out with about site plans, but I think it's going to go a little more general, but we're close on that. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. For my side, Recreation Commission, last meeting was canceled due to lack of agenda items. Next one is tomorrow evening, but I will not be in attendance. I need to coach a championship baseball game.
Ooh.
Yep. So it's gonna be a good one. School facility improvement. We had a meeting last Wednesday. The architect was in on the new GMS and explained his fee structure and how it went. And we went over the fees that other architects have put in, and his were actually the most fair fees based off of the work they were doing. So we went through that whole process so the public would know it was televised on how the fee was, because there was a lot of words out there and people were.
How much was the fee?
When it comes down to it, I think it's 7% of the overall project. And that's to get it into schematic design and have all the narratives. And with encompassing of doing that, you have to do civil work, you have to do electrical work, mechanical, just to get to the process. So there's a lot more going into than just someone getting a set of drawings. There's a lot more information that goes behind it.
Do they have an idea what the dollar amount is on that?
No, at this point they get it. So we went over that part, and then they went over the LMS renovations that they're going to try to do between now and March. They had a color-coded map on how they're going to do it. They're going to, the last day of school, they're going to come in, clean out all the equipment, all the furniture and everything, and then they're going to start ripping down ceilings to get the lighting, heating, ventilation all put in. I have concerns with the amount of work they think they're going to get done in 2.5 months based on the supply chain. I live in the construction world. So I highly recommended that they have another plan of what they're going to do when school comes back in session.
A, B, and C you need on that.
So it's going to be a tough one to get done because of the nature of the environment we're in right now from the supply chain.
Has a decision been made with respect to the 8th grade?
No, at this time they're not. They have a plan. If they can get the construction done that they believe they can, they're not going to have to move them. The contingency plan will be if they can't get as far as they believe they can get.
I think we knew all along it wasn't going to get done in the summer.
The builder says he can get it done, but I don't think it's me personally, I don't think it's a manpower issue. I think it's going to be a material issue is what's going to slow the process down. Because you could throw all the guys you want at it and gals, but if you don't have material, you can't get the work done.
Yep.
So we had a good discussion around that point.
I just know there's significant pushback to having the 8th grade housed at Campbell.
Yes, there was, and that's high on their list. So a recommendation came out that twice a month or a monthly newsletter goes out to the parents to keep them informed on where they are in the process. So it's just not dropped on them at the last minute what the plan will be for the 8th grade. So I think the school board's going to take up that item.
Mostly on a construction job like this, you got your weekly meetings that you have to attend.
Mhm.
The school board will be part of that, and now you can do this a weekly as well.
They do them actually almost daily, and then they do a formal one weekly. So they have a lot of eyes on it.
The formal.
Going to try to do their best to keep it. Every other week we're having facility improvement meetings. So the next one is next Wednesday. Other than that, I'm done. Mr. Larry.
Budget committee doesn't meet for another. I think I already updated you on that one. So.
Okay.
Conservation, we met. Great fishing derby. I think we talked about this last time. We had a 14-inch fish. I mentioned it in the last minutes. All's good. I haven't been there since.
Okay, great. Still assess.
I have nothing to report. The Heritage Commission has not met. And I think the property that is next in line is the Dark Hole Stable property. And until something changes there, there won't be a need for any effort there. And the second thing is the emergency management, and we haven't had any. So.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the legislature, we've ended the session for the taking up vetoes, and that'll be done in the yet to be determined date.
With the surplus again, and that we are going to be receiving, I don't know the amount yet, but we are going to receive an extra payment for our highway block grant.
Oh, nice.
It sounds like it will be coming at the end of the year. So but there'll be more details coming. I'm sure there'll be an exact amount and a date that they'll release it. So that happened years ago where the state authorized additional block grant funds. And so we continue to get these additional funds for our highway department for paving, which has been very helpful where we've eliminated the $200,000 extra warrant article. Yep. We've been able to make it up with other sources of funds.
Yeah, the state has been in pretty good shape fiscally. It's amazing how much this gambling is bringing in, but that's all education money. But people are gambling like crazy.
The Keno,
but not just Keno, but sports betting.
Sports betting, yeah.
Sports betting was what I was talking about.
We got a couple of sports clubs that have the tables, right?
Tables, everything.
Yeah. It's people are going to do it. You might as well get the money. If they're going to go drive across the border, why give Mass the money? Keep it here.
I think we have people from Mass coming up here to do it
because we don't have taxes on gambling winnings, lottery or anything like that.
You want to blow into the bottle now?
All right, that ends our public session this evening. We do have one non-public session under RSA 91A:3 2A, compensation of any public employee. Do we have a motion to go into non-public? So move. We have a motion by Mr. LaSalle. Let's roll call vote. Ms. Queenan?
Yes.
I am a yes.
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 The board is now entering a non-public session. As the case may be, we do not anticipate the need to return to public session following the non-public for any reason other than to adjourn the meeting. We reserve the right to do so if non-public session necessitates the board taking action in a public session. We are now in non-public. Thank you for tuning in, and everyone be well.